I'm just like moving things so I don't.
Well, I guess it's the start of our episode. What's up, everyone? This is episode 48. Ascendancy Alpha, pretty much, is what we're going to be talking about today. As well as people, their experiences in Alpha. Pohx playing Trapper. There's Nugi's been doing Summoner. Ziggy's awesome release of the Scion. We're going to be discussing her in and out. And the Labyrinth and Izaro. We got a lot to talk about today. Our special guests today are Nugi and Pohx again. Welcome back, Pohx.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back, Nugi. Is this your third time on the show now?
Yes. I think so. Yes.
Third or fourth, yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
All right, so without further ado, what have you guys been up to in Alpha? Let's kick it off, Ziggy. What have you been doing?
In addition to doing a bunch of Scion testing, because I was given 3 high-level Scions to make the Scion reveal video with, so I was able to get different types of footage and stuff for it, and I've been able to do a bit of testing with those, so testing some Earthquake and Sunder on one of them, testing a Lightning Caster on the other, and one was a Essence Strain with a character, using a bow in that, and some of the new Ascendancy stuff is pretty cool. And then I've been, since then, testing a Lightning Spellcaster Hierophant, kind of like what I think will be like a good League starter / beginner class. So I've been sort of testing caster leveling and things like that.
What's been your favorite out of the 3 Scions that you've played around with?
The strongest was the Essence Strain one by a pretty good margin. It was insanely strong, like one-shotting Izaro strong. So that was pretty insane.
Well, it's 95,
and,
so...
Yeah. But even, like, I still got one-shot as, like, a 99 Scion in there, so...
Did you have level gems, or did they... or no? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, they had level gems. That one had, like, all the stacking happening, so it had, like, the 26 Essence Strain. So it was, like, fully stacked up.
Okay,
plus 1 bow and everything. But my favorite, I guess I'm actually having the most fun with the like leveling Spark Orb of Storms at the moment. This is insanely fun, so I've been having a butt ton of fun leveling my Hierophant. It's probably been the one I've been enjoying most overall. Sunder's got a really satisfying feel to it, and I really do like Earthquake.
So I have a question about your Earthquake character. I noticed you got the Elementalist for the Elemental Conflux whenever you kill a rare and unique. Do you feel that was like worth it, or do you think it's like something that may need to be adjusted?
I think it's pretty damn good, but it's hard to get it to trigger exactly when you want it. Some builds are going to have better use of it than others because it triggers 4 seconds when you kill a rare, right? And you want that effect to kill other rares, really. Like, most of the time, trash mobs, you're not really going to need that Conflux effect. So Conflux, for you guys who are less familiar, all of your damage will shock, chill, and create an ignite. Now, I got this because, hey, Earthquake does a single massive hit. You get a guaranteed ignite from all of your damage. It's like a huge, one of the biggest ignites you can get in the game, just from a single hit like that. So I'm rocking. I was rocking that, and there were definitely times where I'd like kill a rare and then just like go one-shot Vol or something in Dried Lake because of it, because of the massive ignite, and the shock obviously helps with it as well. And it was sometimes you chain it rare to rare, and it felt worth it, but it is a bit on-off, and considering the rest of the Ascendancy was only just okay, just some like kind of just stat damage boosts, it was it's not one of the, I think it's one of the mid-tier choices out of the Scion for sure. But I like the Conflux effect. I'm really into these sorts of new effects that encourage different play styles. There's a lot of stuff like Assassin and I think the Inquisitor and stuff that are just kind of, it's just like damage, more damage.
Yeah, just like...
It's not really encouraging a new playstyle or new ways of gearing or anything like that.
Yeah, the Necromancer just seems to offer just like more damage, but that's like everything, because when you're playing a Scion, that's one of the most popular summoner choices right now. Just getting more damage is fine, because that's what all your jewels are for anyways. But generic is generic, you want a little bit more flavor in there. So, Pohx, what have you been up to in Ascendancy?
I've been playing around with the, please excuse my pronunciation here, the Sabutier class. It has 3 E's in it, if you pronounce it like that. And I've been playing around with Chain Reaction, which Chain Reaction, for people who don't know, is really cool. Basically, you have traps, and you have Cluster Trap, and you have Multi-Trap, and when you attach a trap to Cluster Trap, it throws 4 traps away from you, a good distance away, that's randomly selected within like a set location, so it's different every single time. And if one of them gets activated, pretty much everything within like a good half of your screen will go off at the same time. And this is really, really cool for scenarios where you're trying to lead a boss into somewhere, or for party play when monsters decide to not attack you and go for someone else, only one thing needs to trigger and everything goes off. And this is really cool for basically scaling area of effect and making your AoE your single target by having everything overlap. The way it works, though, it's kind of different. It doesn't make it so the mobs actually trigger off an enemy. Only the target that's hit by the trap originally targets the enemy. So if you use like projectiles like Fireball, only one of them is going to go to the target. The other 9 will shoot off randomly. So it's great for AoEs and things like Arc because it auto-chains, so that's fine. It's not very good for things that don't really have AoE attached to them in general. But it's really cool. I like it.
Robobox. Yeah, that's what you're saying. Like, so any projectiles and stuff are just going to fire off in a random direction and not do anything.
Oh, there's some robots in chat.
You did go a little robotic there, Pohx. I still got this.
I don't understand because I'm not robotic at all, right?
No, you're fine.
What
I think
the heck? We have the same
Skype
internet.
screwing Pohx. They're in the same house.
But
It's amazing, right?
It's a very flashy build. So something, for example, like you know, like Vegans and stuff, where you have time to preemptively, you know, set things down, or like Vol. You can throw like 10 traps, and they could be like Frostbomb, for example, and like Vegan spawns, he gets hit by Frostbomb, and then while Frostbomb's delay is going off, you throw like 10 ice traps, and it's just like, it's beautiful. Like, it's like the whole screen just shabam.
I watched your stream for like 10 minutes yesterday, and I'm like, so usually with trappers, I'm gonna like, they look so flaccid, man, to just take a word out of Mathel's book. I feel like trappers always look so flaccid to me. They're like throwing little lightning traps, it's like, like little ice gun zap. And I'm like, man, it doesn't really feel very impactful. But watching you now, it's like, screen explosions, everything just getting destroyed, man. It feels so explosive now. The new like cluster trap, the Frostbomb trap, the way they're clustering, and the ice traps, man, looks so good. Looks so fun. I might actually have to play a trapper soon.
Okay,
I was gonna say there's some like king skills that are gonna be coming out. Like Shock Nova is pretty cool with it because you have 10 of them. Something's gonna get hit by the inner ring, or the ring on the end. Firestorm is incredible. You want to see 10 Firestorms go off and now all of them overlap? Like, it's crazy.
Something you can actually do too. It's like Firestorm and Whispering Ice like together. You could put the Firestorm in the Whispering Ice staff and then link it. I don't know. It'd be pretty freaking crazy. Like, I think traps are like one of the best spots they've been in a while because they actually have an identity now. They actually have the Saboteur class. They have Master Sapper now, which is, if you guys don't know, Master Sapper is the trap wheel in the Ranger tree, Ranger Duelist area, in the very bottom right near Arrow Dancing. It now gives you a Frenzy Charge on trap detonation, similar to how Blast Cascade gives you a Power Charge on detonation. So trappers can officially get both types of charges now without having to play the Dodre's Elixir, all sorts of random stuff. Pretty incredible. And if all your traps are detonating as soon as you throw them as a Saboteur class, getting +1 trap actually means something now. With Cluster Trap, it's pretty amazing.
I don't know if it's something to like look for on gear. It's not bad to have, just in general, like having them attached to the nodes, but it's good. What about you, Nugi?
What about me?
Yeah, what you been up to?
Oh, what I've been up to? I've been trying to figure out what I want to play. So I started out with the Necromancer, because Mistress of Sacrifice. We've all been talking about it, or a lot of people have been talking about how if nothing is changed with the offerings, it is really, really strong. And just seeing like what we can actually, what you can kind of like achieve with that entire setup. Because block has for a long time been really, really strong, but they've nerfed it in the regular sense. But we've all seen how, what's it called, Roomies has come into play now with all the flasks. And so now we have Bone Offering coming in. So I've been playing around with the Summoner just to test out Mistress of Sacrifice mostly, because I'm not that into Summoners, but just for that, for how strong it is, I could definitely see myself actually playing a Summoner.
Just give people a bit of a rundown of Mistress of Sacrifice's strength.
Okay, so Mistress of Sacrifice will give you the offering will affect you. So whenever you use a Flesh Offering or Bone Offering, normally it only applied to the minions, but now it's gonna affect the character as well. Flesh Offering was movement speed, attack speed, cast speed, I think.
Yes.
For I think it starts a duration of 3 seconds and then increases per corpse you consume, and it's quite a lot. It's like a second Vault Haste pretty much that you can apply to yourself. So that's really strong already. Just with Wall Haste, because I got lucky and got a Wall Haste, and a Flesh Offering, I had close to, what is it, like 60 cast speed? And getting 60 cast speed on the tree is pretty damn hard to get, right?
Yeah. It's
So
like
so that's a lot of
like
cast
20.
speed at like level 60.
Not to mention on the pathing to that, you get 30% increased skill duration too.
So the duration also, like, it works on the offerings themselves, but you can also use them in conjunction with both SRS. You can use them with animate weapon, but you can even go for Wall Haste. But you can also even go for Blade Vortex. You can go for Spark, and those kind of things. So when you're leveling,
you
you
use
can
summons with them. Like
no, exactly. And the yeah. And the block one is the really OP one because you can achieve max block with the staff with roomies and the bone offering. So you can run around SRSing with max block and max spell block.
That's nuts. That's awesome. How do you like the movement speed from it
Max
too?
block is back, boys.
Well, the movement speed is really nice. Movement speed doesn't feel that impactful after playing Whirling Blades for a long time.
Yeah.
Like then movement speed is kind of okay. It's a little bit better than normal, but not that great. And also you can't have both offerings at the same time. You can only have one or the other.
Sad face. They're both so good.
Yeah, they are. But the block one is definitely the craziest one for endgame.
That's insane survivability for hardcore.
I like that.
Oh yeah.
Do you see it being nerfed? Do you think it's too strong?
It's too strong.
Straight out.
For the investment you put into it, it's too strong. Because not only do you get the block, but the really broken thing is the life gained on block. If you get a 26 bone offering, it goes up to 1200 life per block.
Holy shit. With max block.
Yes. I can give you a comparison. 30k.
You can't die with that.
No. So the comparison here is a 30k armor Aegis build will recover 600 ES. So not only do you have to invest into ES, but you also have to invest into armor. Here you can get double, and it goes straight on your life pool.
Balance.
That's nuts.
Without having to get 30k armor, you're like, what?
Yes. Yeah. It's basically just from having roomies plus the bone offering up.
You're only investing in the Ascendancy Class as well. You're not even really needing to get any block nodes or anything for that.
No. You need nothing else.
That's dumb. That is so dumb.
You can just for the sense of like trying to like push it as far as you can in terms of mitigation, going back to the old school block and aggro. If you run a shield and you get a total of 108 block, then you could run acrobatics, run wall grace, and you would have max block, max dodge.
Nice game.
That's like, and we all know like apparently it's like an 8% chance to get hit just from that mitigation, not counting evasion or anything.
I wonder, like, things like this, it's like the whole community's been talking about it now since, 3 months ago when they released this tree, like how strong that was going to be. And, like, we'll see some, like, things get nerfed or changed that are like, oh, okay, you know, like, yeah, the assassin's a little strong, he does need some crit multi reduced, sure. But then, like, this block remains intact. You know, Roomies remains intact, Vinktar's remains intact, and we're like, what?
It's like, the problem with this is it's a mechanic, right, rather than just like a numerical thing they can balance easily.
Yeah.
They would have to nerf the actual skills, which would have consequences to people not using it, which would be bad.
Yes.
No, they could just make it 50% effectiveness, you know.
Could do.
To apply to you, 50% of what it does to minions applies to you, something like that.
One thing I do think you should consider though is that when you look at Necromancer outside of that, it's kind of a weak tree.
Yeah.
So if you nerf that part of it too much, you kind of take away the power of Necromancer. Granted that the Spectre one is okay, but the Spectre one is really nice, just because it's a lot of damage since you can't get that much minion damage. But all the other ones are kind of crap, in all honesty. So you end up you have to go Spectre, and you can't really do anything else cool with it if you nerf the Mistress of Sacrifice too much. So.
But the funny thing about all this avoidance and mitigation talking, this is before we even mentioned the Basalt Flask. Like, what is that base?
I haven't even seen the Basalt Blast yet.
Have you guys? Ziggy,
Is that
Pohx?
the Fizz mitigation one or the Reflect
Yes,
one?
yes.
Yeah.
I haven't found it yet, no. But it's pretty nuts.
Or it's Fizz
though.
mitigation and Reflect, isn't it?
Yeah, I think was it 30% or 20%? Something ridiculous.
20% Fizz mitigation, I think.
Yeah, it's like 5 endurance charges in a flask. Like,
Rip
Wow,
granite.
that's a lot.
That's insane.
yeah.
It's like being used by everybody almost.
Well, we've been, for the longest time here on the podcast, we've been talking about how to casters get defense, man. I mean, I guess I
Yeah.
just smacked one of those on.
Yeah, it
all
might be the
flaws.
end of the granite flask finally.
Granite
We'll
flask.
see. Who knows? But I mean, honestly, like all these new flask bases are something we've needed for a while. Like some of them have been lackluster, like Diamond and Jade. But now we're getting like these smoke mine flasks as well as level 835 all res flask. Granted, it only lasts 5 seconds. I think it's 5 seconds, right? It is fairly short. It's like for racing purposes, it's pretty amazing. All these new flasks coming out and whatnot.
I think like this is kind of their answer to us questioning things like Taste of Hate and Vinktars and things. It's just they just want all flasks in general to be extremely strong and powerful.
Yeah.
Man, it's gonna be hard to run any healing life flask soon, isn't it? I'm gonna be running like one life flask just
I
for
can't, I
emergencies,
need to.
man.
There's so many choices with
Honestly.
flasks now. So many choices.
I want all the other flasks, but that's cool though. Like good players who can manage their flasks really well will be able to run just one life flask, and will be able to have the very powerful effects of all the utility flasks up all the time.
You're
I mean,
scaring me.
you can see they're pushing the game into that. Like, they have a whole entire subclass based around flasks because, I mean, that's one of the things that makes the game unique is you can look at a player, and hopefully this will change. I don't think it's going to change much, but I hope and pray for the day that you can look in between streams and see completely different flasks on each guy's hot bars. So I think that's going to be really cool. And it is kind of pushing towards that now with, the new utility ones coming out.
I still think we'll probably see Vinktars on nearly everyone.
Yeah, Vinktars. Well, Basalt is 20%.
Yeah.
It is 20%. You guys are right.
Vinktar is very good, like for any like attack based and spell based. I don't know, like any actual like those kind of characters. Sure,
Anything
it's-
that's not like a
it's
summon
really
or a
good.
totem build.
Yeah.
Basically.
But even then, it's like you do need like for a lot of builds, like if you go for a lot of utility flasks, you also have to figure out how do we manage the shock, because I ran like 6 different or 6 different Vinktar builds when it came out, like last league or this league, I guess this league, and it's not as easy to overcome as you might think, because you cannot be shocked. That if you are shocked, then you're taking too much damage.
Yeah.
So that you have to have a setup where that actually gets dealt with. And that's not every build that can do that. If you run a lot of different flasks, for instance.
Yeah, Vinktars is you have to have a grounding flask, and it's
Yeah.
Taste of Hate is still really, really good. So it's like, do you want to sacrifice 2 flasks or just go with a Taste of Hate Roomies or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
I like that direction though. Like that there is a trade-off, and there is like it's not just as doing this. But I also like the point you're making. Like we're getting so many different flasks, so we have all these options. So I really like that. That's really, really nice.
It's kind of like the aura change where like Mana Reservation, it was always hatred, but now you have the choice.
Yeah.
I can use Herald of Ash. Choice opens up more creativity. So
Yeah, it
and when
really does.
everything's OP, is anything OP?
I like it. Oh, man.
I don't know if you've noticed, but they've done the same thing with gems. They're actually doing it with a lot of different things, I think, and they've been doing it for the last for the last 2 expansions or something, or the last 2 like releases. Because we got Control Destruction, now we got the Elemental one, right? We got the Node on the Tree. I'm not like so there's like so many ways of.
Faster proj, less duration. I know what you're saying. Putting more damage
Yeah,
on
and
everything, right?
Pierce, yeah, everything gets like, so a lot of these utility gems are like put up to par, right? A little bit below, but making their utility enough to maybe like lose a little bit of multiplier, but you gain the utility, and now you can like mix and match in exactly how you want it. And I think that's the perfect way to do it.
I
I
agree.
remember a time when a build struggled to get a single more multiplier, and it was like so impactful. But now every build has like 5 available easily.
That's right. You have choices of like no elemental damage, but you deal more chaos. There's something like that, right?
No, it's just
No, there's-
reduced elemental damage.
Reduced elemental.
yeah.
There's one you cannot do status effects, but you get more elemental. Control destruction would be reduced crit chance. JK, it's still overpowered. Like there, you have. It's cool. There's different multipliers you can choose between. Like Nugi said, you can mix and match, and I think that's really nice.
Yeah, it's. I remember when you were playing a physical bow character, up until halfway through his Nemesis, we didn't even have physical projectile attack damage. Like, there was no multiplier other than added fire, which isn't even a multiplier. So now you have like all these choices that you never had before. It's kind of amazing.
On the topic
Even
of
the crit
multipliers,
Oh, I know what you're gonna say, Ziggy.
yes, would you guys like to talk about Elemental Overload?
And there it is.
This Keystone, man, when it was first kind of shown off, I was really surprised to see so much hate for it. Like, generally, people were
So
saying, man, this is terrible. I feel like
What?
people are only looking at their crit builds with 500 crit multi and being like, ah, this is terrible. But yes, on crit builds you get way more damage with this. But this Keystone is so good. I mean, I almost don't want to talk about it because it's kind of like point blank for leveling spellcasters. It's just like all the damage you need for leveling. That's
Without
for
a
sure.
downside.
And
I think it's the strongest one on the tree.
Yes.
yeah, I think it's for it. Like every
long shot.
every non-crit spellcaster and like every non-crit spellcaster will get this, and it will stop casters from stacking any sort of crit if they're not really committed to going crit. Because there's no point in going crit. Like, I've seen tables, all these tables and stuff that show if you have 40 crit chance and this much multi, then Elemental Overload's better. But why the fuck would you do any of that?
Yeah.
You don't
Like,
need
if you're getting Elemental Overload, don't invest in any crit.
Yeah, exactly.
I have 5% crit chance and I have 100% uptime.
Yeah, first let's talk about what it does. So Elemental Overload, for anyone wondering, is
Okay,
a
yeah.
40% more elemental damage multiplier, with the downside of you no longer have critical strike multiplier. So the first thing you see is like, oh well, if I pick this up in a crit build, you think, well, I'm only going to crit 5% of the time. But when you're using something like Orb of Storms, like Pohx is using, when that thing is just chaining constantly, you're going to have it up. It lasts 8 seconds. Like, this thing is up 100% of the time. It is a free support gem for no investment.
As an
like 2
example,
points.
for people who want to know, I use traps on my character, so my traps physically cannot trigger the skill, but I use Orb of Storms, Curse on hit, and my Orb of Storms drops curses, and with a 7.2% crit chance, my Orb of Storms keeps 100% uptime on the
Yeah.
8-second refresh for 40% more
Orb of
damage.
Storms is like anything that's hits really fast or like that. Orb of Storms is enough to keep it up 100% of the time. With it's got 6% base crit, and just dropping that down on packs is enough to keep it up permanently. Yep.
Do you guys think, honestly, right now, the crit meta, I mean, armor being really strong, Iron Will's already been pretty popular, and now we have Elemental Focus, we have Elemental Overload, we have so many multipliers now, less duration. Like, it's almost like we have so much consistent damage, you don't need to go crit. If you want to go crit, the option's there for, like, endgame, min-max. But now it's perfectly fine. You don't feel the need to go crit anymore with a lot of spellcasters. What are your thoughts on this, Nugi?
I would agree. For a select few builds, or there's a good amount, then you don't even for the end mid max, you don't need to go crit. Crit is still very, very strong, and there's a lot of different mechanics now to even better crit. So, but I think there's a good balance between, like, where do you want to put your investment now? So I definitely agree. It looks to be a lot more diverse meta this time around when you compare all the different builds.
I think it's just insane, man. Like, we just got Controlled Destruction coming in for, like, even though it works for crit or non-crit, but still, like, for non-crit, that's a multiplier. And then you get this, another multiplier. But I think the best part about it is it makes leveling feel so much better. Because you just pick it up and everything feels like it feels like it should be. It feels like you have a +2 permanently, or like a +3 permanently for your skill. And it makes it, for me, when I'm playing I was playing Ice Trap, and I could freeze bosses, not effectively, but even like a 1 second random freeze off like a chance to freeze. But I was freezing a boss with a non-crit build, leveling up because I had so much damage, and it felt really nice. Like, it's a cool addition.
I don't want to talk about it because I'm having so much fun with it. I don't want to get nerfed, but I think I kind of wish that I had to do something a little more creative to get it to work properly. Like, I was thinking, hey, if I put power charge on crit on my, like, if I just get 2 power charges, and that's all I invest in for crit for my build, and then get power charge on crit, then I'll probably get 10-15% crit chance that'll perpetuate from my Orb of Storms. I can put power charge on crit on that, and then I'll have enough crit to keep this up all the time. I was kind of disappointed when I found out that I could keep it up with just like 6% crit on Orb of Storms.
Yeah.
I think Orb of Storms is the thing that kind of breaks the skill. that makes it too easy because it's a duration. Like it keeps every time it triggers, right? It can crit.
Yep.
It doesn't crit on it rolls a crit on every single tick it does.
And it's a 12-second base
Right.
duration if you get any duration in the tree.
Yeah, but if you did ball lightning, it only has one chance, right? It either the thing crits or it doesn't crit. But because it can crit like multiple times, then that's why it's bad because you don't have to you don't have to cast another. You don't have to do another cast to get another chance of rolling the crit.
Yep, exactly. That's why it's so
And
good.
that's why Flame Totem, for instance, can't proc it, but Orb of Storms can. That doesn't really make sense.
And that kind of gets into the whole other topic of Orb of Storms being very, very nice.
Well,
but
Good. Talk about your experiences with the Orb of Storms because this is important stuff for the community here.
I want to kind of just finish up on Elemental Level a bit, I think, because I do want to clarify that it's very, very good and very easy to maintain 100% uptime with no investment on things that attack fast, like Orb of Storms, and if you're playing like a cast speed caster build, very, very good. I like that this will have some potential for like elemental attack-based builds, but for attack-based builds, you need to invest in accuracy if you're getting it, even if you don't plan on getting any crit, even if you're a fast attack-based build. So you're still having to get, because if you're not going RT, right, you can't trigger it. So you need to get some accuracy to be able to get it. So there's a much more of a trade-off for attack-based builds. I feel like it's going to be very balanced for attack-based builds, but for spellcasters, it's it probably I don't know how you balance those two things, especially because if you nerf it for one thing, attack-based builds are not really going to make use of it. Did you use it on your LE attack build, Nugi, or were you playing crit?
Wait, sorry. Come again?
You were playing an LE cleaver or something, weren't you, or an LE attack build?
I was playing a crit-based
Okay,
LE cleave, LE cyclone today.
Yeah, okay.
But I wouldn't take advantage of that one. So I haven't checked out how hard it would be to get that thing to work on a non-crit. Because I think if you at that point if you want to have that working with attack-based builds where you want to crit a lot, I guess it would work still with a non-crit. But RT becomes so strong then. Because then you don't have to. So it's
much
a hard
weaker for
trade-off.
attack-based builds.
Yeah.
RT's probably more damage than that multi in how many points you have to invest to get it because it's kind of in a non-attack based area. Maybe a Wander would get it, but Wanders go crit, so you kind of and low life spectral throw maybe, but even then it's like you'd probably still want RT or go crit.
I guess you could the thing is you can use Orb of Storms or Blade Vortex for melee as well.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues right now is how I think maybe this is a problem because this is also what was shown on Cast and Crit with both Orb of Storms. Like, it's the same mechanic with Orb of Storms now, so I don't know if like even Cast and Crit characters are gonna be just throwing down Orb of Storms all the time to get more power charges, right? Because it can keep triggering the same way Blade Workers can. So it's kind of the same issue with the things that can keep triggering with the duration.
So I think that's kind of segues perfectly into Orb of Storms discussion then.
Because I'm using Orb of Storms with my Trapper, because my traps can't proc it, but Orb of Storms can, and I still have 100% uptime, and it only pulls, like, I give it maybe like 1 or 2 seconds, and it always gets it, like in between the delay of me throwing the trap and it going off. And I just use Curse on Hit, like I said. So like I just drop the Orb of Storms and Curse on Hit, and it just curses for me too.
Yeah, if you're scaling AoE, it's a massive curse area, cursing on hit, giving you crit, giving you power charges.
I predict with increased AoE and having 10 mines out at once, I could have Orb of Storms to hit 85% of my screen. Like I just drop it and it's gonna be like encompass the whole screen.
It's very, very strong for utility. It's great for damage for lightning spellcasters, like straight up. It's a good single target boost. It's a good AoE boost for level. Like it's insanely good for leveling. It works kind of like a trap that you can just drop it and let it kill the pack a lot of the time. And it also is also works a bit like a totem that can't die for boss fights. So it's a nice damage boost. It does have a pretty good drawback though because it's not a totem. It does reflect does hit you and bleeds do proc from it, and you can't get rid of it. Like if you take the gem out of your weapon swap, it stays there. You can move it, but it moves to where you are. So you got to like sprint away from the rare and then drop it again. So we'll see people dying to like corrupting blood and reflect and just being like, what do I do? What do I do? Like and then kind of panicking. Your only option is really to log out at that point. But yeah, for utility, I think is the real strength of it. Although it's very good for damage for lightning casters, it's going to work for anyone. For power charge on crit, for you can put
Curse
life
on
and mana leech on it if you want to, and just chuck it down. If you're another sort of spellcaster, just put mana leech on it, give you your mana if you wanted to. Your power charge on crit, your curse on hit, insanely powerful, and then of course elemental overload.
The craziest thing, the reason why it's such a good utility skill is because its base duration is 12 seconds. If you put increased duration on that and whatever other utility you want in 4-link, curse on hit, power charge on crit, any of those things, it's
Don't even
insane.
need increased duration.
I know, you don't even need it, but it's like, it's 12 seconds. It's the reason why it's so damn strong. Like, most of the time, like, you think about self-cursing, it's a pain in the butt, because if you miss, like, 2 or 3 mobs, you're like, really? But, with this thing, it's guaranteed to get it all. I'm not saying it's going to trump Blasphemy, but it's definitely, like, the utility skill we've needed for a while, and I could see them nerfing the duration or nerfing something with it.
I think they should just keep it the way it is for now and let people play around with it, because it's like, all it's doing is enabling things. It's not...
I'm thinking that too.
Yeah, it's just enabling.
I'm a fan of what ZiggyD have been doing lately and just like letting stuff play out for the league and then nerfing between leagues or right at the end of a league.
Oh,
That's yeah, I think I'd like to.
Because I mean, if you want to talk about being kind of OP, take this for example. So you know how you can only have one Orb of Storm out? Well, the other one, the Frost one, so we'll call it, I don't know what it's called. Call Frostbomb.
Frostbombs?
Is it
Why are
called
you talking
Frostbomb?
about this? Because it's not getting much love.
Okay, because it's going to go hand in hand with this. So normally it has a cooldown. It has like a 2 or 3 second cooldown, so you can only place 1 down. Because I'm assuming the intended purpose is to reduce their cold res by 20%. Now if you attach it to a trap, then it goes off the cooldown of a trap, because traps have their own cooldown. But if you attach that with the Saboteur subclass with a 20% CDR, alongside with the 30% you get in the tree, and then you use Cluster Trap, and then you use Trap's Trigger, like, sorry, what is it called? I always forget.
Chain Reaction.
Chain Reaction.
Chain Reaction.
And it's you're not actually investing anything, because you're doing this with your build anyway. Now you can have 10 traps out, 1 mob triggers it, you have 10 Orb of Storms, and the AoE is just, sorry, not Orb of Storms, Frostbomb. But the bomb AoE is just like Orb of Storms, so it's huge. So one of them is reducing 20% resist, which actually applies to all of them, and it has a higher top end than Cold Snap. And with reduced duration now giving a multiplier, it's actually pretty good. Like,
do you know if the resistance lowering effect stacks from different Frostbombs?
I'm 99% sure it does not, because I'm pretty sure I'd be one-shotting like Volts and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
But it's still
Good
really
timing,
good.
yeah.
It turned a utility skill into like an actual skill for me. Like, it's, it still has that delay, but it's not bad. You just throw it, they're out, and then it does like a decent chunk of damage.
For everyone wondering, we're talking about Frostbomb. We're not talking about Orb of Storms right now. We're talking about Pohx has linked Cluster Trap, Frostbomb Trap together, and with the Saboteur, if one trap triggers, they all trigger. So he's thrown out like 1,000,000 Frostbomb traps. And like Cold Snap, once you link this skill to trap, it now takes on the cooldown of the trap rather than the skill's base cooldown. So he's able to have a ton of Frostbombs out at once. Just as like, I don't know, it's just like a... What would you name the build, Pohx?
Fireworks, man. It's like bubbles and fire. You guys ever play like Bubble Man from Mega Man? Like there's like bubbles everywhere. It looks like that. You're like playing Mega Man, just dodging the bubbles, man. There's explosions everywhere. It's cool.
Heck yeah. That'd be insane if like the cold pen actually stacked per Frostbomb, because Frostbomb just pulses over time and lowers cold res. Be nuts if they all stacked, but
it's nice. I think they're cool additions though, because does the orb also minus their lightning res? It does, right? Orb of Storms or no?
No.
No.
It doesn't? Okay, so my bad on that. So I don't even use it for its intended mechanic. I just use it for my own charge gain. But it's still cool. Like they're just like utility skills that are coming out that have intended purposes that are build enabling for us, which is nice,
Isn't like you could use the secondary explosion though, still on the Frostbomb. Like sure you get the but like the idea like the intended mechanic is for it to blow up though. Still, like it's to lower their resist, but also to blow up. So it's not like it's completely out of its intended mechanic.
That's very true. I think this is very true. I like it. I think it's cool, man.
No, I think it's. I haven't thought about it. I think it's really cool. I was like, can this really be intended? But like, when Kostner works the same way, I was like, okay, why not?
I was watching him today. He fought Vol. He threw down his freaking Frost Orb traps, and Vol like instantly went to 25% when all 10 detonated. It was like, what the hell? It was nuts.
Oh, it sounds really good.
And then
the amount of damage you were doing for like self-found there, Pohx. Did you take advantage of like the gem vendors in the alpha or anything, or is it just regular normal what you do in the normal game?
Yeah, but it's
your
just,
leveling
it's, just,
setup?
it's just 4 links. That's all. Like nothing crazy. 5 links would open. Every link after a 4 link is a multiplier. So it's like like after it's so like we have ice trap. You've got like ice trap, trap and mind damage, which I should use control destruction, but it's ice trap, trap and mind damage, cluster trap, cold pen, and then you have like control destruction, and your 6th link would be like insert empower or etc multiplier here, or whatever you want. Increased AOE, conk. Like there's so many things you could put in that spot. It's just all multipliers. But I will say that leveling was probably like 20 times more stressful, and then you get chain reaction. You're like, all right, we're good. Everything overlaps now. We're good. So
chain reaction is so good. So let's talk about chain reaction in the Saboteur. A lot of people have been saying that why would you pick that up when you just go Sunblast with 2 of the new unique jewels that reduce the duration by 10%. Sunblast being 80, the 2 jewels being 20. Now you have instant detonation rather than picking up the Saboteur. So what are your thoughts on that, Pohx?
So for people who don't know exactly what we're talking about, there were these new trap gems that came out earlier. They released like 3 of them, and one of them had jewels. Sorry, one of them was trapped cooldown recovery was on them, right? Or not trapped cooldown. Sorry, what is it? What's the one that Sunblast has?
+1 trap with minus 10% trap duration.
Sorry, there we go. So you can basically make like grenade traps. People are they want to play where you use Sunblast, and basically you get it so you throw the trap and it just triggers by itself and goes off. It's not a bad idea. Like it's fun. It's cool to play around and have different things. The only problem is the investment you're doing pretty much the investment you're going for is sacrificing a belt, which you could be using like a leather belt with 40 base life, with a 90 plus base life on the roll, with like a strength roll, which is quite an insane amount of life, and then 2 jewel slots, which is potentially 2 to 3 damage rolls alongside with 7% life. But it is something cool and creative. Everyone wants to try something else out. Basically, what people are doing is they're making traps into mines without playing mines. That's what people want. That's why they're getting instant detonation, is to make traps like grenades, which is kind of like what mines are but aren't. Sort of, but I think it's cool. I don't know if you'd need to do it, because chain reaction is extremely strong as it is.
I think the main reason people want to do it is so they don't have to go Saboteur. So let's say they want to do like some huge trap, right, that just one-shots everything. Let's say you want to have the craziest one-shot Ice Nova trap. I don't know. I know it has a high base damage, but then you can go. You could go Assassin, because you can get the extra crit, and you could have them always crit with the multiplier, and you would one-shot. So that's kind of the reason why you would want to go that way. But it creates it creates an entirely different style of gameplay, and it's for a different purpose.
Right, because
so it wouldn't be for the Saboteur.
Right, as you were saying before, because you can't lay them anymore. It's just they all
go
off.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is. That's
There's
why I'm saying it feels
no
like
preview for bosses.
It feels like what mines would be, in my opinion, if we played them more actively, but it's not there. But I see what your point is, because you can essentially what you're saying. You could play literally anything. Like you're not limited to Saboteur whatsoever, because you could.
Yes.
You're basically getting chain reaction without using chain reaction, which allows you to play any of the other subclasses.
This is the beauty of the Ascendancy. Like, this is the thing that Ziggy and I were talking about 3 months ago, is that by restricting class identity, it's going to open up more creativity and more uniqueness to this game. The fact that we're even having this conversation of, are you Saboteur, are you going to pick Assassin or Elementalist as a trapper, isn't something we had before. It was, I guess I'll go Shadow because he's closest to clever construction and I don't want to deal with that crap while leveling. Something like that was your reason for picking Shadow. And I really like the fact that Ascendancy is opening up these possibilities that we have to actually min-max about. Or choose.
And new builds, of course, like Scion especially, and many of the other ones opening up completely new builds that we couldn't have done before. So
let's talk a little bit about the Scion. It's a good segue there, Ziggy. Now, in your video, the video you were showing, where you could fuse your soul, one of the things the Scion can do is fuse her soul with another class and use that class as a starting point, and then respec out of the points alluding up to that. Now, in that video, you only save 3 points, but in a normal circumstance, how many points do you think you can actually save up to? Like 9, 10?
I think like 8 to 12 in that range.
Okay.
Scion that's the thing that makes it's tricky. This is a very much for hardcore min maxers who really want
Advanced
to get
players.
in and think about playing, think about really how they're going to work out something that's really going to make it worth it. Because you have to weigh up the fact that you're losing one of the Ascendancy classes. But I have found trying to play in different builds on the Scion that there are a fair bit of builds that can lose the second one, and it's not that good. Like the first one they get is really good, and the second one was just kind of a bit of padding. So that 8 to 12 nodes could be worth one of those ascendancies in quite a few builds. Like especially if that gets you to like another Keystone or another really impactful cluster or something like that. So I think about 8 to 12. 12 would be really pushing it in some builds. But that's the thing, because Sion's in the middle of the tree. It is difficult to do anything more than that.
It's like you think about, like I was talking about like crit staves the other day. I was like, I would probably try out Scion with crit saves infusing my soul to Shadow, because like the attack speed along the way to Shadow, and then you have all this just dex everywhere. Instead, I would just like chop off that coordination and work my way through all the crit and use the extra points on accuracy, crit, things like that. And I was like, all right, I could see myself using the soul, but it's like you really have to think out your skill trees even more so. So it's like the skill tree is becoming even more intimidating if you pick the Scion, if you decide to fuse your soul. I'd love to see the stuff you guys come up with. Seriously, a lot of min-maxers in this chat right now.
I think it's a beautiful concept to be able to save points, because we saw this like a long time ago with Intuitive Leap. People were really trying to, skip one thing, like spec into a node to save points.
Yeah.
And now you actually have the ability with Scion to just literally like chunk out one part of the map or one part of the passive tree, and like saying, you could create some really, really cool things with this. You just really have to sit down and think. You need a reason to do it. You don't just play it for the sake of doing it. Well, I guess you can, but it really brings out the min-max potential of what you want to make. And it's cool. Like, I know a lot of people, not to start a bandwagon or anything to jump on this, but a lot of people are like, what's the best thing to play in Ascendancy? You have so much customization. You can literally make a build from so many different plays. Like Nugi was saying earlier, let's go Necromancer just to get max block. And it'll work. Like, you could do stuff like that. And I think it's just really, really cool.
I just did a quick count for Scion, the jumping to a different star, and I think max is 12 that you would save. So you need to be going completely different directions on the tree. So let's say, for whatever reason, you wanted to go down to Duelist from... Well, this could happen, like a projectile poison build or something, right? Go down into Duelist and Ranger from Scion, and then go up, and then teleport up to Witch. It would save you 12 points about that. So if there's a case where you could spend that 12 points to get something pretty damn impactful for your build, and I think that could happen in quite a few cases, then we could see that happening. Thing is, you can't do this until you finish Merciless, and I think that most people are only going to really do this respec at very high levels of character, so 85 plus. This is an 85 plus optimization respec, I think, in most cases. Pretty hard to like plan a build that starts out like that, I think. It's not really something that you could... I guess you could be like getting to Merciless and then right at that point starting from Witch and doing the second part of your tree, but...
I have a feeling like we're going to see a lot of, Fuse Souls. I have a feeling it's going to be like meta as hell when you pick Scion, because like... I mean, granted, people are always talking about Raider and Deadeye for the Scion. You can't even pick them both together. There's a lot of subclasses that the Scion has that are really good, but like most of them are either like mediocre or lackluster. I wasn't really blown away by very many of them. I'd rather just choose one and infuse my soul and get 12 extra points if I can do that.
You do get the 2 points, 2 extra passives from Scion as well, from going the path of which you'll get the 2 passives along the way. So that will help a little bit with allocating certain things. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a lot of this. I don't think we're going to see a lot of this. I think we're going to see a lot. At least not for quite some time. Not for like quite a few months at least.
Like all the guys in Standard that are going to just cruise through Izaro right away, get their points. I could see them already planning to min-max this already.
What do you think, Nugi?
I think it's really hard without having actually gone in and had a tool to like theory craft them out.
Yeah,
like a good
physically
tool
actually plan them out.
Because it's very hard to like visualize. At least I can just instantly visualize like how it's gonna look. I have had builds in the past where I would basically go from like picking like all the aura nodes, for instance, right? And so you kind of have to go all the way down below Duelist. You have to go next to Templar and above Shadow and Witch, And so that's like in every single corner of the tree. And I think if you wanted to do something like that, like that's something that's literally impossible like prior to 95. And you can't even make it work prior to that, and even then it's like really stretching it. And so this might enable you to finish a build like that at like 85.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, like the build is actually in a good shape because you can actually play it without having to investing hundreds of hours into it. It's really, because if you can push it from 95 to 85 to be playable, then all of a sudden it's worth leveling.
Oh yeah. Not only that, but you get the 2 extra points too. Get the 2 extra points.
Oh yeah, that's true. So I definitely think that there is some builds that could take advantage of this. That doesn't really maybe like get use of +1 chain or crit multiplier or whatever else it is. Like that doesn't use any of this. I can't really imagine what it is yet because you kind of have to like have an idea about it first. But I do think that the getting another starting point is worth it in its own, for sure.
That's the thing, right? At the moment, we're just like, I don't know exactly what build's going to use it, but you just know that the tool is strong enough and flexible enough that there's going to be things that this helps with. But that's an interesting way of thinking about the fact that you can get some builds that were just too out of the way to really achieve feasibly. You can now actually start doing because of it.
I can see this happening a lot in Standard League. Like I think Standard League's going to jump on it like instantly, so that way we could see these the avenues that are going to open up to us. Because those guys, hopefully, it's going to be the first thing to do.
Comes back right after Ascendancy and shows us some of those.
Yep.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
I want to see some awesome Reddit posts and forum posts of your guys fusing with souls. Yeah.
I see you've really taken and run with my little bit of flair in the video there.
It's awesome. Like I was blown away. Like I thought the Scion was going to have like her own tree where you choose strength, int, or dex and then go through it. But I'm really blown away with what the Scion is. I'm gonna say this. I actually think it's kind of balanced. Like I thought Scion was going to like either be OP where every class, like if Scion has access to every class, it's going to be broken. But she only has access to some of the things.
Too. I did a good job of hyping, and everyone was like blowing up about how broken it was. But I do think it's actually pretty. Well, I'll say balanced, as in like not everyone's going to play Scion, right?
Exactly.
There's a few things that are going to be really nice with Scion. Like for example, I think nearly every Sparker is going to be Scion. I just can't imagine not really taking Deadeye as a Sparker, but. There's gonna be like you can still do Sparker as other things, right? That's what I don't know. Nugi's reacting like that. You can still do Sparker as other things, and there's gonna be a lot of builds that are just better as doing the actual core class of it. Like these are different samplings of the theme of one of these Ascendancies, but then they're actually Ascendancy. I think I'm really glad they did this way, rather than allowing us to do what some people said and just pick one or pick two from different classes, right? Like, that would have been so hard to balance, because they would have had to have balanced Scion by nerfing other classes and affecting those classes. Now they can individually balance Scion without affecting the other classes, which is amazing. Really good.
I'm gonna have to go on a limb and say that I think Scion is gonna be balanced because 50% of the people are gonna know what they're doing and 50% of the people aren't gonna know what they're doing. So I'm gonna have to go with someone.
Hard to plan a build for it. It's definitely more difficult to plan a build for.
Oh yeah.
Which is what I think was the original intention, but it wasn't quite that difficult. It was just that her starting nodes were a little shitty to begin with, so it was kind of like, well, you needed to make up for that by planning a good build otherwise, but it wasn't really that hard to plan a build for Scion. Now it's actually a fair bit harder to plan a build for Scion, especially if you're using like Path of the Witch or something.
Your first step is to get the Scion pizza wheel, right?
Box now.
It's a pizza wheel, man. Duh.
Yeah, so Rory's changing it to a pizza shape. Because no one liked the rectangle. So I love how when it was a rectangle, everyone's like, "Oh my god, nerfed!"
It's like people can't count. It's like still eight little nodes. Like, please.
It's the exact same. Just like the shape has such a big impact. Though, why is it different to the other two? Right, like the evasion one and the ES one, they're both circles with a little hat. Yeah. Why is this one a square? It's just
totally. It's just a troll. Like that's exactly what it is.
I'm pretty sure itching their necks when they see it. They're like, I can't do this.
Why Rory knocked?
Yeah, because it was the Scion Life. It was nerf the Scion Life wheel. Nerf the Scion Life wheel. It's not a wheel anymore. It's a rectangle.
Yeah, they nerfed the wheel.
They did nerf the wheel. It's gone.
Not a very good wheel anymore.
Completely took it out of the game.
Yep.
Scion Life wheel is gone.
The game is literally unplayable.
So.
How do you guys feel about the actual Ascendancies overall? Like the choices of Ascendancies. Have you thought about different selections of two that you can use? Which ones really stand out to you guys as being particularly powerful? For me personally, Deadeye and Raider are like top tier.
For the Scion, you mean? For the Scion?
For the Scion, yeah, Deadeye and Raider. So
Juggernaut
Deadeye gives the massive projectile stuff, and
Juggernaut and
Raider is the
Assassin.
frenzy onslaught stuff.
Obviously,
You're a fan of Juggernaut, yeah, Zeno?
the Juggernaut. All right, so being able to be immune to stun is huge for like any ES based build. Like that is like something you strive for, and if you can't afford Skyforth or get lucky and chance them, going Juggernaut is not a bad subclass ascendancy, except for Nugi's point of Immortal Call. I'll give you that.
Well, and also like the need for stun immunity on CI is vastly overrated.
You think so? I think it's like
Yes.
super important.
There are very few builds that will like. It has to be builds that will intentionally put themselves in the fray and that cannot function if they get stunned even once. Those are the builds that struggle. Any like a cycle like cast and crit, for instance, right? Would never use it because they're like immune while they're spinning anyways.
That's true.
As you have ES, you have 50% chance to avoid already. In the Witch tree, there is chance to avoid while casting. So if you have like any kind of casting style build, you can get almost like you get like 80% chance to avoid, plus the 50%, plus the fact you don't always get stunned, plus the fact you can get avoidance on the helmet. Like there's so many other ways of getting that mechanic or getting a mechanic that is equally good. Also, there's stun recovery, which you can get, and you can get block, and you can get a lot of stun recovery. Like, so there's a lot of other options in terms of mitigating stun. Though,
I'm not saying
however,
it's the only thing. I'm saying it's
No.
like a really good
It's a new
choice.
option, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Instead
something
of, like traveling all the way down
like,
Wavering.
The thing that most
Yes.
people are doing is they see the Juggernaut and they're like, oh, the actual Juggernaut class is better. But that's not what the Scion is. The Scion is you find two things that will supplement your build. That's
No,
it.
I
You
didn't-
don't
I
compare
didn't
it
see
at all.
I didn't personally see the cannot be stunned with what's it called?
Max endurance
charges.
charges, yeah.
And I think it's a really good mechanic for those builds who need it, right? I think it's really strong for that. So I completely agree, because normally you don't want to go down to a wavering, because there are builds who would
Yeah.
actually go down there or would get the neck. And for any build who would do that, that's actually a valid option, which makes it really strong.
Or for an
So
evasion
I-
build too, like evasion, it's like amazing. Or like the Berserker is crazy too. Getting what is it, 1.2% leech? That's nuts. That's so good, so good.
Oh, Berserker is one of the best one in Scion, I think.
Oh yeah,
As well,
Absolutely.
actually,
5% leech, yeah.
1.1 times multiplier to everything. It's crazy. And for just a 5% more damage taken, like whatever. That's nothing.
on my boots, actually, Nugi, I have an enchantment. It gives a 40% chance to avoid stun after you kill a target, or like after killing a target, you have a buff for like 4 seconds. Where
Wow, cool.
you have 40%
Man, there's some
chance.
really good enchantments
Yep.
there.
Actually, I'm gonna pull it up exactly what it is.
We'll have to
Yes.
talk about enchantments in a bit.
Oh, I didn't want to go. I just figured I'd tune into it as well since we're talking about. Stun
Yeah, no,
recovery
that's
and
very
stuff.
relevant to right now for sure. Another option for CI then for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of them I think are really lackluster. Like the Saboteur is pretty useless in general for the Scion.
Yeah.
Necromancer is very generic. It's strong but generic, and there's a couple others. I was like, really? I wouldn't even ever.
Some of
think
them are
about
pretty
them.
bad. I'll definitely say that. So we were talking about balance. I think like Scion as a class is pretty reasonably well balanced, and not everyone's going to be Scion. But I do think there are some of the ascendancy choices within Scion that are just pretty bad.
The
And
Templar
then
one's
there's
pretty
some that are
sick.
very, very good. Like Raider is going to be amazing on almost any build.
Yep.
Phasing an onslaught while full frenzy charges, and your frenzy charge on kill. Plus a little bit of dodge, why not? And status avoidance, why not?
Yep.
Very, very good.
What's his name? I'm not sure if it's a Hierophant or Inquisitor. The one that gives you crit on status ailment. That thing is so good. 120 crit when they're affected by a status ailment. I think that is Inquisitor.
The consecrated ground one, yeah.
That
Yeah, I think Inquisitor's okay from the Scion. It's definitely one of the decent ones. Not a great one. The +1 totem Hierophant in the Templar, it gives you the +1 totem. Like, so you can get the actual Hierophant, which gives you more totems, but there's an implicit damage reduction for every totem you have out with the Hierophant class. This gives you an extra totem without needing to get that damage reduction. The caveat being that it's only available in your helmet, which is, I think, pretty cool. I think the Hierophant one's pretty nice. And you get power charges when you place a totem too, which is pretty neat.
the beauty of the Scion, if you guys haven't figured out, it's again you're not comparing Juggernaut versus Juggernaut. You're comparing what two things will best supplement my build that's on the opposite side of the tree. Like a lot of ES builds suffer from the lack of frenzy charges. They have to do some kind of janky way to get frenzy charges. You're going to pick Raider. Now you can get frenzy charges with ease, and as well as dodge and other great things. Or like Leech. Leech is hard to get in some builds, so now you're getting free Leech, without having to go all the way down to Duelist.
And then on top of that, it's also about you can get that class, some of that class's power, some of that Ascendant's power, without going anywhere near that side of the tree. So you don't want to be anywhere in Raider. You don't care about evasion or any of the shit in Raider. Sorry, in Ranger, but you can get Raider. You can get the Frenzy Charge stuff that for a completely opposite build on the opposite side of the tree without going anywhere near there. That's the I think the real strength of it.
It's cool, man. I like it.
All right, if you guys we keep saying nerf, nerf, nerf. If you were to pick one of the subclasses in Scion that needs to be buffed, which one would it be? For me, it's Saboteur. It's just like, okay, you look at it and you're like, this really doesn't do anything for me that I can't already get through skill gems or the tree.
Yeah, it's not really enough to make you want to play a Trapper for the actual Saboteur, is it?
See, but I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want them to really, like, the whole point of the Saboteur though is it's supposed to be unique. So like if you put in chain reaction there, it like screws up Saboteur. There's no point to pick it.
Well, then they don't have to put it in there, but they could give it something other than just random nothingness.
Yeah, I mean, but the whole reason to pick Saboteur is that, well, not the whole reason, but it's one of the main reasons to pick it is that, like, you do get the trap cooldown recovery, which is pretty big for a lot of trap builds actually. Yeah, I mean, I would agree to an extent. I just don't really know what to put in there. I think
it's important that they don't take the uniqueness out of the other trees and put them into the Scion.
Agreed.
Yeah, I like what they've done with some of the most impactful ones are the ones that are actually pretty significantly different, but the same theme. Like Deadeye is quite different to the Deadeye class, but it's still very strong in its own way. And like Hierophant taking this idea of the totems, but in a different way to the actual class. I love that they're different mechanics. That's, I think, is key to the Scion being interesting and giving you a bit more choice, is having them actually give different mechanics. Because there'll be cases where you take a build that would never have gone the other one, but hey, this is actually kind of interesting to me because it's slightly different.
Like the Assassin was beautifully executed. Like just plus 1% base crit opens up so many more possibilities while still being able to get another subclass. You know, I think that's awesome because the
only thing I hate about Assassin is that it's your critical strikes with attacks maim enemies. I hate that restriction on there, man, because the rest of it. So
maim is.
I know maim's not actually that good, but it's just that's just kind of a bummer to me.
I mean, to be really strong on spells, can you imagine maim on Whispering Ice? Like, let's just be real here.
No, I guess so.
Like they're never gonna move.
As for your original question of which one would I buff, I reckon Champions the most most lackluster in there. 10% chance to fortify and melee hit. Guess if I have a really fast attack build, I can not use the fortified gem, but
I would agree with that.
They restrict it to melee, and then like 10% of the time you're not gonna die. How about I need that 100% of the time? Like, please.
When you're playing with defensive mechanisms like that, I feel like it should not be a dice roll. Because, I mean, when you're fighting,
chance to fortify on any hit at least, maybe then that like not just melee.
25%, 30%, no, just 10%.
That doesn't suit the Scion, right? If you're really like that, the point is that you can bring these things to different classes. Like maybe you can bring a little champion to a spellcaster, but you can't do that with champion. I think it's strayed away from the intention of the Scion design. I think, in addition to being lackluster. So it's got the double whammy of shittiness.
So let's move on. We talked about the Scion long enough, guys, and we definitely talked about Trappers way too much. Let's talk about the Labyrinth and Izaro.
Yes.
So I personally have not played Alpha at all. I want to experience the game on release, but you guys have all dabbled in it. Let's start with normal difficulty, Labyrinth and Izaro. Let's start with, is it overtuned, undertuned, just right? Pohx, you can kick this one off.
I think the Labyrinth itself is cool. Like I don't think anything needs to be changed with a Labyrinth. I think maybe there are some scenarios which are difficult, and I think that's the purpose of it. I also have walked through every Labyrinth. I don't use any movement skills, so that's probably why it feels really difficult to me, which is a good thing. But I love it. Like I don't want them to change anything with the actual running through the Labyrinth.
In normal difficulty, in all of them actually, I think the Labyrinth is really good, yeah.
But yeah, the Labyrinth is designed well. I think Izaro for normal difficulty does a bit too much damage. Now, the only reason why I say this is he hits for... It's not uncommon with no mitigation, which, you know, by level 35, you don't really have much going. You're not really sure if your armor... You know, you just have leveling gear on or random things. But it's not common to be... It's uncommon. It is common on that fight to get hit for like 900. Like just a random smack a charge, 900. And then in the second stage, he can gain frenzy charges. Also, when you're inside there, there's other things you can get. Like you can hit a dark shrine and have permanent vulnerability. And it's like, oh, well, that's fun in normal difficulty. Let's just permanently vulnerability forever.
Yeah, don't touch those dark shrines. And
well, see, you don't know that.
My first run, I hit a turbo one. Izaro turbo, the first run through normal. Oh my god.
But other than that, I like it. I just think that the damage of not even like, and just how hard some of the skills hits. Just because I think that normal should be kind of, it should teach you and prepare you for what is up in Cruel and Merciless. Not you should die here and learn from your experience, but it should get you ready for it. That's my personal belief on it.
It's very difficult, I think, for even experienced players if you go straight in there as soon as you have access to it in normal difficulty. So, like, I think I really enjoy when stuff's really difficult and you have to have a few cracks at it to really get anywhere. But in normal difficulty, that's going to restrict a lot of new players from getting the Ascendancy class started. They're not going to get their first 2 points. They're not going to get the enchantment. And what's going to happen ultimately, and this is the primary reason why I think that the normal Izaro fight, and I completely agree with Pohx, it does way too much damage, or does a bit too much damage, I guess. It's just going to be the case that everyone's going to out-level by 10 levels and then come back.
And you don't want that to happen.
You're going to go all the way into Cruel and then you're going to come back. It's like the point is that you get your glove enchantment and you get your first 2 levels in your Ascendancy so that you can have that for the leveling process. It makes the leveling process different and more interesting and exciting. It's instead of leveling the same characters again and again and again like we do in Path of Exile.
My beef is
some new things to play with.
As much as I love grinding your games, they continue to make the same mistake in my mind, where if you're going to introduce a brand new patch called Ascendancy, and we can't experience Ascendancy because it's too hard, in the tutorial difficulty, there's a problem. Like, the biggest problem with Malachi, granted a lot of us had no problems with Malachi, a lot of people were getting destroyed by Malachi in 2.0, right? It's a tutorial. Yes, it's the last boss of normal, but normal is a tutorial-based difficulty. You can't make it to the point where people are just getting demoralized completely. Can't release content and we can experience it.
And he's like, we're actually buffing normal and Cruel. I don't know if that was like they've already done that or they haven't done that yet. Because I think they said they were going to make it hard. Maybe them in the Labyrinth and not the Izaro fight. But
a quick example, and then I'll toss it over to Nugi. I got clipped by his charge, by Izaro's charge on his second phase when he had like 6 frenzy charges because I didn't have the I didn't have the damage, I didn't have my build set up yet, so I couldn't hit the pillar, and I got hit for 1100 damage and got 1 shot in normal. I took the edge of Vol's Slam in normal difficulty, or Vol's Slam, and got hit for 400. So, I mean, that's just me. But what do you think?
It is way easier to go do Malachi.
It's on my normal difficulty, so.
I think normal is too hard. I know honestly, because it's a completely new mechanic for new players, right? If you get unlucky, there's a few. It's the Izaro fight is so dependent on what kind of rolls you get in the fight. Do you get the easy adds? Do you have a single target build? Like, okay, let's say you get the triple elemental adds that you can consume, right? If you have a really good single target build, you just go over and whack them and they die. If you don't, if you have like summons, if you have some kind of AoE build that can't really do it, and you go towards them and he like charges and he picks them up, then everything is just screwed up after that. On the other hand, you could get like you could by chance you could have like a really nice melee build, right? And you just go in and you have good single target and you just you kill him and you ignore the entire phase. So and then you just go on to phase 2 and you feel like this wasn't hard at all. So and I don't know, it's a lot of it is dependent on what kind of things you will encounter in terms of the different roles you get, which is super random, and it varies so much difficulty. To some extent it's okay, but I think in normal it's I don't know, it's a little bit too much. And then even then I think some of his abilities are a little bit overtuned, because I got 1 shot from 1300 life, right? I don't consider myself a bad player. I felt I had my resist were good, my life was good, I was moving out pretty well around the thing, but even then I got 1 shot from 1300 life
in normal
on
difficulty,
normal,
which is way more
That's
HP
a lot
than
of
what
life.
you'll usually have going through
that is
there.
a lot of life.
I do Malachi in normal at 800 HP. So like to
Yeah.
me, that's
I
just
hover
insane.
around 1000 against him, and then I'm feeling fairly safe.
It doesn't make sense because 1, it's Act 3. 2, it's named after the damn league. Like this is how you become an Ascendancy class. JK, you're gonna get 1 shot at 1300 health, like in Act 3 normal. Like what the hell is that?
I'm actually a bit worried about the new player Ascendancy experience in general, because I think a lot of people are just never going to see it. Like, there's a lot of people who just will play the game because they're like, oh, new expansion, cool, this sounds exciting. and then they're not the most like knowledgeable players who go and look up all the guides and things like that. You're not going to get any of the trials. You're not going to see any of the trials. They're like hidden away in hedge maze. There's nothing that points to them anywhere in the game. You have to kind of just stumble across them by chance. They're hidden off in side zones all the time. And then the labyrinth itself being very overly difficult for the point where you get access to it. Yeah, I'm a bit worried about the new player experience for that. Something I'm often considering. So I think it's pretty important to the community.
On a side note, this has to do with the Labyrinth as well. So I learned something. I did this for testing for everybody, Capo. Did you know that if you don't click that thing, you don't get the Ascendancy points? So I went through Cruel and
you did that.
I got so excited to get my enchantment that I forgot to pick up my Ascendancy points and had to rerun the whole entire thing. Anyway, one other thing to note on there as well, for people who haven't done it, if you play a Trapper, I'm going to give you the heads up now. There are spikes that come up out of the ground. You cannot throw traps at monsters that are standing on spikes if the spikes are active, because it's considered
a side block.
Right, it's considered like a wall, which I don't think that's intended, because literally if you fight him in the 4th room, it's like 35% of the room is spikes, and there's times where like the portals for monsters spawn on spikes. So if you don't kill portals in the previous
you had a Spike Izaro fight? I've only ever had Roomba fights with him.
Yeah, I've
never had a Spike
everywhere.
Roombas.
Yeah, the Roombas are mad, dude.
This is where does PoE come up with this stuff? Titty bitches, Roombas, you know, like the swag words here.
Yeah, I didn't know you could get it. I thought it was just the Roomba fight, because I've had several times the Roomba fights across several resets. I've never had the Spike fight before.
It looks
Damn,
like
that sounds brutal, because they are a side block.
It looks like
It's
a
rough.
plus sign, right? And like where the sign is here, you can walk. Everywhere else is spikes. So like all 4 corners are spikes.
Jeez. Man, that sounds rough.
What other swag words do we have in PoE? Like, oh, buzzsaw. You know, buzzsaw, man. That spectral throw, you know?
There's a lot of buzzwords.
The pooper shooters, man.
Poo-poo shooters. That's another one. The little crabs that shoot poop at you.
So I've played the Labyrinth and Izaro fight in Merciless as well on 95 to 99 Scions, with pretty damn good gear, and it's very easy for the most part, and you can have enough damage to just insta-kill Izaro with a character like that. And I was like, as I said, I was almost one-shotting him with this Essence Strain character I had, but you can still be one-shot. I had 7.5k life on this melee character I had, and I still got one shot by the charge. So, but then I played another character with 5.5k life and took like 3.5k damage. So there's something weird going on there. There's either very high variance in it. I don't exactly know what was going on there.
I do know one thing. You know, like his souls, he kind of shoots out like the green stuff. He can use a skill, and that goes off at the same time. I've seen him do his force wave thing that Nugi calls it, like shoots out, and he's done the soul. So like he's done them both at the same time, and it's just like a barrage of damage.
Yeah, it's not like regular boss fights where they are locked into doing one animation at a time. There's 2 separate entities attached to each other, one that will fire ranged attacks and one that will do its melee attacks, and they can do them at the same time at separate times. So if you're into the rhythm of dodging an attack and then attacking them, then they can still follow up with another attack as they're still doing the other attack. So I actually really like the design of the fight. Although I think the numbers are a little poorly tuned as far as damage-wise is concerned, especially for normal difficulty, like we're talking about. I love the mechanics of the fight. It's such a good boss fight. Really fun, really intense. Yeah, Scap's being a little dodgy today.
Yeah, sorry guys.
I think
go ahead, Nugi.
So with the whole like design of the fight, there is a lot of room to improving the fight though, because you can trivialize it pretty easy in a lot of instances, because whenever you face tank him, everything you're talking about again, like with him, like the only thing he has left is the wind up attack. Right, that's like there's like one wind up attack and you can move away from it, at least in
like
the first.
false attack.
Yeah. And everything else he does not do. He does not do them. And you can just stand there.
A little odd, especially it doesn't do the cascade. I can understand not doing the charge.
He does like a cascade, like AoE around himself that spawns skeletons. And that's it. And whenever he's doing that, you're just, oh, nice, last charges, thank you. So it just makes it even easier.
It seems like they've tried very carefully to make this a much more melee-friendly fight, because often there's the criticism that any new boss that comes out, it's like, wow, this is like rip melee again, like even worse melee this time around, like Malachi and everything. But we often find a bit over time that there's ways of dealing with it melee, but straight off the bat, it seems like this guy is a lot easier for melee, yeah?
Also, one thing for people to note is you cannot ever use any portals in the Labyrinth.
Yeah.
You cannot ever, you have to go through everything. And
Yeah,
traps,
we haven't mentioned that mechanic.
Traps deal percentage-based damage as you're running through. And traps still, even though they deal percentage damage, can still get modified because some traps can actually bleed you out. And if you get vulnerability applied onto you, some traps, like there's one that it's like a saw comes down and goes like that. It's really hard to get hit by. But if it hits you, it's like 50% initial damage, and then it punctures you. And with vulnerability on, it can probably one-shot you. But still, I mean, you can just remove it off.
Something I want to talk about with this Labyrinth, as you guys know, it's going to be a daily feature. Once you get your 6 Ascendancy points in Hardcore, do you see yourself going back to do these dailies, or not worth your character?
I mean, I'll do it for the enchantments anyway. We haven't talked much about enchantments just yet. We'll talk about them soon, but they're worth doing it for alone. But I'm really excited about the idea of another form of racing in the game, another form of competitive PvE. That's what I think action RPGs are all about. Like, PvP is, I think, a bit too niche in these sorts of games, not really appealing to too many people, but competitive PvE is what it's all about. And this is the first time we've had some competitive PvE outside of, like, the Race to 100, which not that many people participate in. Competitive PvE that is endgame, that you can take your regular characters into. I think that's really, really exciting, man. I'm really excited for that. I'm hoping that it's hard to see how well it's going to play out, and whether it's going to be very competitive, whether many people will engage with it. There's a lot to rely on here for the community and the design of it and everything, but I'm still very excited about that concept. We don't exactly know how it's going to be implemented just yet.
How about you, Nugi? Is it something you're going to do?
I worry a lot about what's going to happen with... Okay, so I think this is one of the things that GTG kind of... They want to do one thing and have the other. Like, it's like they want to... They want to have their cake and, I don't know, and eat it too, or whatever you want to say. Like, it's... Because the problem here becomes, if you make the trial, right? If you want to have it something that has a leaderboard, it has to have a certain difficulty. It cannot be trivial. If it's trivial, nobody's going to care. Right? Because then everyone's just going to run straight through and just have as much damage to, like, down him as fast as possible. And it all becomes a DPS check for killing him as fast as possible and, like, memorizing the layout. But if you make the merciless one too hard, nobody can ever complete it on their like character unless they're like 90, and that doesn't work either. So, like, trying to make like the ascendancy part, which is supposed to be like the stepping stone into your end game character, making that end game, it's like counterproductive, because you can't have both. So you end up either having the content too hard, or you will have to know, like, or you'll like or you'll have it too easy, right? For the like, one will be too easy and one will be too hard.
That's a very good point.
That's the Merciless Labyrinth we're playing right now is, you're right, I think that's the stepping stone into endgame. But here's the thing, right, and this is where we segue into my theory. I think there's going to be another higher level Labyrinth. Something probably through a unique map.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of loot features in this that just don't make any sense because of level 68. No one's gonna do Labyrinth for loot because of level 68, only for the enchantments. But if there's a level 75 plus or something unique map Labyrinth, or some other way like Uber Syria where you can get into a high level Labyrinth, and then maybe that has the competitive leaderboard associated with it as well, then that will be the more competitive. That's actually in the end game. You've done your Ascendancy stuff. You've got your end game progression. Maybe you can get some higher level enchantments in there possibly, and the loot actually matters. There's a point to get the Dark Shrines. There's a point to get the silver keys in the chest. Like, the loot will actually be an interesting thing to farm at that point.
Absolutely, for the enchantments as well.
I think it has to be.
There does have to be.
For this to work, there has to be. There's no other way.
Because if you, as Nugi said as well, balancing the content. If it's too easy, enchantments are going to be face roll. There's not going to be you just keep spam running it. You know, just keep on doing it. It's going to be another 10-hour grind. You have to play on every character to get the proper stuff, without, you know. So, I like that idea.
Let's go into
more difficult higher level enchantments will give you a good thing to do that with.
With enchantments, what are you guys' thoughts on the enchantments so far? You know, starting off with your gloves, do they introduce them correctly in this game, or do you think it's just something that needs to be improved upon? There's a lot of them. What are your thoughts, Ziggy?
I'm really excited that I think I love the enchantment system overall. I love this. I love the variety of them. Some of the ones I've seen so far have been pretty impressive and powerful. I love that they're bringing procs to the game on gear. That's exciting. I've been playing a bunch of Grim Dawn recently, and that's one thing I love about the gearing system. There's a bunch of procs like cast on hit or cast on crit or cast on being hit or cast on being crit. These things coming into the gloves are really cool, and they seem to be pretty good so far. I got this chaining like ethereal knives that does physical spell damage. If you're playing like something that scales that, then it'll actually do pretty good. They've balanced them around having competitive damage with your main skill, so they do a noticeable amount of damage. I jumped in Dried Lake to test it out. It procs were one-shotting things, so I was able to run around with an auto attack, just procking it and killing things. So
it's amazing.
That was cool. They've got cooldowns on them. They're all about a full second cooldown, I think, but they're actually impactful and noticeable. So really like the glove ones. Boot ones also seem to be very impactful. I got 12% attack and cast speed for 4 seconds after you kill something.
That's nuts.
That's a lot of attack speed on boots.
It's on pretty much every time except for like.
That's all. Yeah, it's nearly always on, right? Very cool. And I got on the helmet. I got 10% of physical damage as added fire for burning arrow. I'm like, oh,
that's really good.
That's a god tier burning
There's
arrow.
one that's storm call duration, like reduced storm call duration, which is nuts if you're running less duration with it. So
I'm sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Pohx. No, that's fine.
I was gonna say, do you see a market coming into this where like people will run, like they'll find good base items, like good item level base items, and they'll just run the content and then just start applying this to white items and selling them, and then you'll search basically on PoE.trade for enchantment wise and craft your own item based off it?
I don't know if you can craft them after you've got the implicit, can you? I actually haven't tested that. You can?
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice then. I like that.
So you could sell a white like item level 84
really cool.
with the best thing for your build, search it, find it. And this will basically promote learning how to craft your own gear.
I was already really excited for the economic implications of this, but now I'm even more excited now that I know that.
I think that's cool.
And something else to add, PoE.trade will now have the ability to show item levels because I believe they're making item levels like static on gear now or something like that. So whenever you're looking at PoE.trade, you're like, oh, I'm going to craft a Hubris Circlet. Now it'll actually show up 84, so you don't have to look up 20 Chaos 0.084.
On PoE trade now.
Yes, finally. So there's a lot of new things that's going to be huge for the economy.
This will revitalize the market for mid-tier items a lot of the time too, I think, because a mid-tier item with just your bit of life and resist that's decent that you wouldn't really have been able to sell for much, or would have sold for maybe like a chaos here and there. Now, if you get a good enchantment of it, but it's not any skill that you're ever going to use, then that's going to go for much more for someone that's actually useful for that. So there's gonna be a whole new market for that. It's going to really pump up that market of mid-tier items, maybe even for softcore for a bit longer, right? Keeping that market a bit more active for those low and mid-tier items for a little longer. Pretty excited about that. Pretty excited about trading in this new league with this.
I don't like trading, but I want to trade just for these enchants. I think it's gonna be fun.
We have a new trade improvements coming as well, right?
This is very true. I'm excited. It's something to look forward to.
As much as we all cry about trade and how much of a pain in the ass it is, if you compare it to every other ARPG out there, sadly, it's still the best trade system, and that's not a good thing. More improvements is always good, but still.
I think I complain about trade all the time on my stream, but it's overlooked because of what the game has to offer. And it is I don't like it, but I do respect it to an extent. It's got the old school hey, I'd like to buy this, blah blah, whisper, and it is there. It's one of the few games that still has that around, that you can go ahead and you can legit barter with someone. Be like, yeah, I saw your item there for 2 chaos. I'd like to buy it for a wisdom scrap. No, okay, next person.
Okay,
it's cool. You have the ability to do that. It's fun from time to time.
I actually like trading in Path of Exile. There are definitely improvements to be made, but I actually do really enjoy trading in this game. It has a pretty vibrant trading economy, much more than any other game I've ever played. So I do enjoy playing Economy Simulator every now and then.
So let's talk about, we'll go a little bit back on subclasses here, Ascendancy subclasses, not Scion, but the other ones. There's been some improvements, buffs, and nerfs in the alpha since the initial release, such as Juggernaut is now just immune to stun. He doesn't have a higher stun threshold. Assassin got a pretty big nerf, as well as Occultist. Occultist got destroyed. Have you guys messed around with any of those since the changes?
I've been playing Hierophant personally, which I don't know if he got changed at all, did he? I don't think Hierophant got changed.
I think he got a minor buff. Chieftain got buffed pretty hard. Like Occultist, Vile Bastion's now 0.5% instead of 1% ES regen per mob killed. They also completely took off the energy shield recharge, and they changed Profane Bloom. I believe it still works. It just now has a chance for people in your party.
I haven't looked at that one since the nerfs. So that sounds pretty brutal.
There's a lot of
excited
changes
about that class. I think it was going to be very strong.
Assassin, instead of getting 15% increased crit multi per power charge, is now 5. I think that's just the change with the crit multi in general, though, to match the new change to crit multi, which is now additive, I believe. There's like a bunch of new class changes. Chieftain got a lot of good stuff. I don't know, just a bunch of class reworks. I guess you guys didn't see him. Yeah, Profane Bloom was buffed. A bunch of new things.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they're still working on the balance. When I was talking to Rory last, they were still kind of fine-tuning things. There might be a few more changes before live, based on some kind of last-minute alpha feedback and that sort of thing. But yeah, it does seem like they're still playing around with them a bit. Do you think that the changes so far have really brought up some of the ones that were really lacking then?
I still think Hierophant sucks, so no.
You still think Hierophant sucks?
I really
like Hierophant, man.
I don't think he's that good at all. Like, I don't know.
I think he's really strong. That's my opinion.
I like Hierophant a lot as
strong.
like a league starter.
Like
I
don't know.
So that's what I'm testing on the alpha at the moment, Hierophant. Let's talk Hierophant then, since it's
Do
obviously
it
a little contention. I really like the class. I think it's one of the ones, as I was talking about, I don't really like the ones that are just like, here's some more damage, right? Like Assassin and that. But this is actually kind of changes the way you gear and the way you play a bit. So this one's got the 20% pen in your helmet, 20% AoE in your gloves, and 2% life leech in your boots. So I really like this as a league starter, firstly, because you have three 5 links right off the bat. You're just getting 4 links, gloves, boots, and helmet. And they're not actually supported by XGem, so it doesn't modify mana reservations. So you can have something like Blasphemy in your gloves to get the 20% AoE with no real extra cost associated with it. So, and then what I really love about this class is that it promotes a re-look at a lot of uniques that have been kind of a little, not that exciting. Like, there's a lot of helmets and things that give extra effects to things socketed in them that now give you, like, at the bare minimum, +1 from Joffrey's, +1 5-link with Ellie Pen in it from Joffrey's. Nice, man. Nice. And it's any pen type, too, so you could put, like, Discharge in there or something and get penetration to all of the damage types. So, I really like this as a league starter. And then the other stuff is pretty good. The Mind Over Matter is good. I don't really like the Totem stuff on Hierophant. I find it really lacking.
Like, but, other than that one node, you were just other than the first node you were talking about, like, everything else was just like, whatever. Like, the Mind Over Matter and then Energy Shield based off your mana, I'm like, those are kind of counterproductive, I guess, hybrid thing.
You don't use those together, no.
No, like, it's... And then the totem is kind of lackluster, so you're stuck with just mediocre points. So other than the free...
So tell me why the totem is lackluster, though.
Well, it's good because you could still do damage. I'll give you that. And I think it's lackluster because in a totem build, you wouldn't use that. You would rather play someone that just gets more damage or something like that.
Why wouldn't you?
I don't know. I mean, you're already using Spell Tone, which lowers your damage. Now you're using 2 more totems that you get for free. You do save some skill points, I'll give you that. But now you're reducing your 20% less damage on top of that. And it's like the rest of the points are just... I'm not really sold on them. Other than the penetration AoE and leech node. I think that node's incredible.
So basically, like, the totems, if you have 3 up, have the same amount of damage total as the normal double totem build, right?
Yeah.
So you're basically gaining your entire, like, the option of actually self-casting on top, which is pretty much doubling the damage.
But what build needs to use 3 totems and self-cast to kill a white pack or a blue pack? That's the point.
Why do you need to use the entire kit to kill a white or a blue pack?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, if you get just as much damage as 2 totems, why not just drop, like...
How many totem builds have you played where you're, like, thinking, I wish I could leech right now?
Not many. Not many at all.
I played a lot. Where you run around and you're taking a lot of damage because you're running a really hard map.
I'm just use Flasks. Like, I played a totem build this league to level 90 and I had no problems wondering if I could leech. I drop 1 totem on a pack dies. Drop another totem on another pack. I don't need to drop 3 totems to do damage myself. Like, I just don't need to do that.
I think this is more of a everything just dies too fast right now. rather than
Fair enough.
because I remember when I played totem builds, there was plenty of maps where you could have like Flicker Strike Beyonds coming on you, right? That really sucked when you did
Go back
Beyond
and
maps.
Beyond, this would be amazing.
Yes. The fact you can run Vol skills as well. You can run a Vol skill, you can leech with a spell, and you can have totems all over the place.
I want to interject really fast here.
Ooh.
And actually,
Do it.
no, this is against you in a way, because this is what I was talking about when we were talking in the house like a week ago. Is I think the intended purpose is not to have 3 totems for for a pack. It's just you can drop a totem and move, because that's what you're supposed to do. Even with dual totems, you don't need, like if you play Shockwave Totem, you don't need to put 2 Shockwave Totems down to kill the pack. You put 1 and then hit the next pack with the other one. So this basically just allows you to utilize your normal kit, have your option of either getting, multiple totems or not getting extra totems. But on a boss fight, it's not bad to have, for example, 5 totems. Because if you're not insta-killing the boss, which not every totem build insta-kills like Palace Dominus, for example, it doesn't hurt to have the ability to put out 4 or 5 totems if you choose to, for example.
I think that the damage reduction doesn't matter on trash packs so much, so you can just keep running and dropping your totems,
Right.
but the issue is that it does stack up, as in, your totems will still be there off screen when you run to the next pack and put it down, so you're going to get 20%, then you're going to get minus 30% for the next pack until the last totem expires, which is 8 seconds by default. So unless you're using reduced duration, something that works well with reduced duration, then you are going to be keeping up a 30% damage debuff as you're running around through the map, unless the totem dies. And if the totem's dying, the mobs are still alive and you've missed the mobs. So it's I think there is a bit of an issue there. You are taking 10% less damage while you're clearing. That's not going to affect you. You're still going to clear trash just fine. And then you have the extra boss killing potential, like you said. But 30% less damage, that actually might start to affect you a bit.
I mean, having the ability, I will give you that. Having the ability to leech is nice, but like you would have to actually have those totems despawn to actually. I don't know. I just the whole you can have 5 totems now. Yeah, and a massive downside, and you're using your whole class for it.
But there's not a massive downside.
What's that?
There is not a massive downside. There is a downside, not a massive one. I think you're vastly over-exaggerating the downside.
50% less damage is a
totem
lot.
damage, not
Totem damage, not self-cast, right?
So you
Still,
have 100% self-cast, and your totems, when you have 3 up, will still do 210%. Right? Because they're doing 70.
Which goes back to everything dies really fast. We're just going in circles now. Because it's like, if you need more than 1 or 2 totems and self-cast to kill a pack, like if your self-cast can kill a pack quick, why do you need 3 totems? And if you could use 3 totems to kill a pack, why are you needing self-cast?
So the only way we play this game is one-shot packs.
I mean, that's pretty much how the game becomes. Yeah, that's the clear speed meta right now. If you're not one-shotting a white or blue pack at late game, people are just like criticizing you.
When you build in an action RPG, right?
Be godly and kill things fast.
You're running into a Tiri and one-shotting a Tiri every single time.
I don't do it Siri for a damn good reason.
You're running into core every single time, one-shotting everything.
I mean, did you do core last league?
No, I didn't.
Okay, then irrelevant point.
All right.
I did the reso. I did double count.
Me too.
I did
Me too.
triple damage, everything. Like I don't know.
I've done Duresso with an Abyssus on.
I'm gonna interject here really fast and state that the purpose of this is to have the option of being creative, not it's bad, etc., etc. No matter how bad anything looks on paper or mathematically, there is going to be a build that can be created utilizing Ritual Awakening, and it's going to work just fine because of how much customization you have to offer in the game.
It's definitely offering. It seems to me pretty clear. Like, it's not very good for clearing, but good for bosses. It seems pretty clear to me. I don't really know why there's much contention on it, to be honest.
I don't know.
But,
you can just have a self-cast build where you clear yourself and you have your totems as an additional thing.
I mean,
that is very true. Like, I honestly think the Hierophant is bad when you pick up the totem node. Anyone running around with 5 totems is crazy. Like, if you want to use a self-cast
Why
build
are you
and then
using
pick up
5
Hierophant.
totems? You don't even take the totem node.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't, like, that's the benefit of the Hierophant. You don't pick up the totem node. That's what the point I'm trying to make
Yeah, I
is.
think Zeno's agreeing with you here, Nugi.
Yeah, I'm agreeing there, Nugi. I'm not trying to fight you on this one.
Okay.
Jeez.
So take a step back. So the totem stuff has obviously got some. It's a bit heated. I like it for even completely ignoring the totems, right?
Yes.
Grabbing the illuminated devotion, the helmet, gloves.
Just
boots.
pick it up and go.
Yeah,
self-cast.
Conviction's power is enough to feed, even on a slower casting build, elemental overload. that power charge generation on kill is enough to feed that, keep you going. That's like hardly any investment for that, and you get free endurance charges too. And then the 10% Mind Over Matter effect brings you back up to 40% if you do get Mind Over Matter, Cloak of Defiance again. I quite like it overall for like a regular non-totem build. I think it's pretty damn good for that, especially for a league starter.
Oh, yeah.
God, can we not talk any more subclasses? Whew.
I love it.
It's getting hot in here, man.
Chad's
Like, I always go into like,
Me and Nugi are going at it. Jeez.
well, like it's what you're supposed
fun.
to do, right?
Well, I mean,
That's how theory
Podcast is
crafting
about,
works.
man. Hell yeah.
You bounce it back at each other.
Can we bring back elitist jerks from WoW, please? Thank you. I miss those days.
I think my entire way of approaching this is always keeping an open mind and not ruling anything out too early, because you never know what's going to be strong. It's just going to bite you afterwards if you say this is going to be terrible. The same thing with Elementalist, right? I don't know if it's going to be good. I kind of have a notion that, okay, maybe it could be good. It could be very good, but I can't really see it. I can't visualize it myself right now. The same thing with Scion. And so it's like, okay, like, I'm going to keep an open mind and not say it's too bad until I've actually tried it out or seen anyone try it out.
This is very true.
So other classes, I actually another one that's like up in the air is Elementalist. I actually like the Elementalist class. I think she has a lot of cool things in her kit. I do think there's other classes that are better. Conflux is
mechanic.
dumb. For the first 2 points, getting Conflux is crazy. I forgot the name of the one in the very middle, very bottom, that works very well with Lightning Coil, Taste of Hate, and LOL Raid Blade helmets, which, by the way, there should be a Divination card coming out for those soon. They're a little bit of a spoiler. One of my viewers made that. That node, it's whenever you take elemental damage of a certain source, you gain 40% of that as elemental damage, or lightning, fire, cold, and then you take 8% reduced of that element. So if you're playing like a Lightning Coil build, taking 8% less lightning damage is pretty huge. Same thing if you're using Taste of Hate, things like that. I think she's actually underrated. Some people aren't giving her the love she deserves. As well as a 20% all pen for 4 seconds.
You know why I think people hate her? Because she's got a golem node.
That golem node is disgusting. And we don't even have a lightning golem yet, so it's like...
See, I will look at this in the flip side, all right? And I will say 2 things about this node. That I don't know too much about it because I haven't played with it, but I don't think it would be bad necessarily to go into a boss fight with like 8 golems, like just running in front like Ball Summon Skeletons. I will say that I don't want to run any chain maps with little golems around because, I mean, you know, that's kind of scary. So, as Nugi does, I try to keep an open mind.
But your golems won't die to the chaining spells, because they're immune to elemental damage with Liege of the Primordial.
But what about just like...
You'll die, but the golems will stay alive.
I was going to say, that's even worse, because it's going to keep ricocheting. Like,
Yeah.
it'll keep going. They'll just
That
stand
golem
next-
node.
Like, hey bro, what's
With
up?
tankier golems means more chaining.
You really don't think the golem is good? The Leash of Removal?
Oh no, I'm keeping my mouth shut. You
I'm
can fight
joking
with someone
because
else, Nugi. Go
Everyone
for it.
hates golems at the moment.
I mean, I'd be the first to say...
Like, on that point, I agree. Because I think the main issue is you can't keep them up. Like, you can't keep the golems alive. But the main thing that kills golems is actually elemental damage. So immunity is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the damage provided for a 2-pointer is very high. If you look at all the others in terms of like what they provide for like a 2-point, like a 2-point extra little thing you get, like it's very high.
Apparently
you get
the
the
golem node's been
40% and the
changed.
double bonus.
Yeah, it got
Is this one on the
changed.
site not up to date?
Oh,
What is it now then?
It's-
Apparently this one on the site.
No, Nugi's right. I believe you basically whatever type golem you have out, you get that type extra as damage now, as well as some other things. They no longer spawn golems.
Is it still the increased buff effect and the golem's immune to elemental damage? Because that's what it
yeah,
says on
and
the
then
site.
you get the 40% increased damage
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
type as
that's-
well.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
there's
unless
no
that's
lightning
been
golem,
changed
so
now.
Rit or you get Chaos
Lightning
golem, which
Golem's
is
coming
cool.
though. He's coming, man.
Soon
Very
TM. He'll come out with Herald of Anarchy, Kappa.
Like it's not as strong. Obviously, it's not as strong as like the Assassin 2-pointer, right? But it's not leading to a 4-pointer either. So I think for it, I just compare it to the Necro, for instance, where I get 40% damage every time I consume a corpse, and this is just straight up better. Like if the golem is actually out.
I don't know, man. I feel like I don't know the golems. We already went to golems last podcast. I feel like golems are like one of those things that they have to completely rework. Like, they're like such a pain in the ass to keep out, or you have to always link them to at least something. At least I feel like either like blood magic if you're reserving all your mana, or cast when damage taken. You can do them self-cast, but then they end up dying and you forget to resummon them. So it's like one of those things where it's like I think they need to just be tankier. I don't care about the damage they deal. They just need to be tankier.
I could agree on that. Like they seem to die off too quickly and have no real ways of like sustaining themselves, or you have no real way of sustaining them.
And as a summoner, because they are a minion, they don't really do anything for a summoner other than just physical mitigation if you're using Chaos Golem. So I think in general they're just there.
But that's why I like the immunity could be really strong here though, just for keeping them up, because mainly it is elemental damage that wrecks them because they have no elemental resist. And normally like the damage is normally built around 75 res in maps. Like that's the assumption. So, and new golems have none. So I think it could be pretty good.
Do you guys know if the stone golem is a physical for this purpose of this? Increased damage for each type you have?
The Elementalist gets physical damage confirmed.
Oh, really?
Because that actually makes sense though, man, because Conflux is about making all of your damage ignite and that. So you could play like pure physical builds with Conflux.
And then you would go Lightning Coil and pick up that other node.
Increased fizz. Yeah, Lightning Coil and take Paragon of Calamity, why not?
I mean, if that can actually work a non-elemental Elementalist, by all means.
It might not actually work because I don't think he has a physical tag, and I think the other ones have like Fire Cold and Lightning tags. Well, the Lightning Golem probably will.
I mean, nothing has a physical tag
probably
in this
won't
game,
work, sadly. Yeah, there's no physical tag.
No, it's an Earth type. It's a new element coming out, guys. And after
And
that,
then
it'll be Heart.
the last element will be Love.
And then we can all make Captain Planet Golem.
Yay. Yeah, maybe that's the problem with golems. They're all just gearing up towards some sort of uber golem that combines together Transformer style.
What's up, Nugi?
Leisure per model. Someone said that the Scion one is for all 5, and the leisure per model might be only for the elemental ones.
I don't remember the Scion one.
There's like
saying
so much
anything
to remember
differently.
now. There's so much to remember.
Oh, they haven't put the Scion on the site yet, sadly. Emmet, take our energy.
On a side note, I will say that I was very pleased to see what was it, a stone golem? What is it now? Sand golem, stone golem?
Yes.
Stone Golem.
Stone golem. I like him because I often do play right side of the tree shadow, and you do have regeneration now with like growth and decay for like some 2%. But it's cool to get flat life regen that actually does something. Because I remember going through Labyrinth on normal, I had 0 life regen. But you throw the golem out, and since everything does percent damage, it was pretty cool, man. I like it.
It really depends on how much. Has anyone seen how much flat life regen it gives at level 20? If it's around 200 or 150, that's quite a bit.
It doesn't
I'd be
scale.
surprised
Like,
if it was
it starts
that
about
much.
40 and it doesn't scale up that fast. Like
okay.
level 8, so it's like mid 40s for level 1, and then level 8 is like mid 50s. So I don't think it scales up quite that hard.
How much is it giving at level 8? Did you remember?
It's about 50 something. Mid 50s.
Oh yeah, it's garbage. That's garbage. It's Rejuve Totem with legs.
Unless it goes straight up at the end. Rejuve Totem.
With legs. Yeah.
It's just like Vitality with legs. God damn it.
Let's just talk Vitality for 5 seconds here. Buff it. Just buff it.
Change it. My
Make
Vitality
it
needs
not
to be
bad.
different.
It's a dangerous mechanic to buff.
Absolutely, but so much mana
Like
reserve for
it
nothing.
yeah, I know, but it enables too many things if it's too strong.
They could just not make it life regen. They could change it entirely to something else. I mean,
Yeah.
Vitality.
I'd be up for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they should just
Some
make Vitality.
summoners might be pissed, but
Should just make it like Discipline. So Vitality adds 800 flat life, and then every build uses it, and then it'd be great. It's perfect balance. And then nerf it at the end of the league.
you and I have different ideas of what is a perfect balance, Pohx.
I'm just kidding.
I think that's the only form of defense Pohx ever gets is life regeneration. And that's only
flat.
because it's attached to damage.
It's
I thought what is it? Defense is.
dude,
flaws.
Labyrinth showed me, man. Labyrinth is like 1k HP, no defenses, have fun in standard.
Yeah.
Cruel was fine though. I think I swear I took more damage in normal than I did in Cruel. I know that makes no sense, but I'm almost positive I did.
It's like Map Merveil all over again.
Oh, for Izaro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. Cruel seems so much easier than normal.
There's been some weird shit happening with the damage in that fight. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if devs came out and said, "Oh, the charge does percent damage plus a flat amount." I wouldn't be surprised because the fact that I got one shot by with a 7.5k guy, and then not one shot with a 5.5k guy. I don't know.
But weren't you shocked as well or something? I think.
And frenzy
I don't think I was
charges.
shocked for each one. I did have Vinktar's Flask on those characters with no shock removal. I know that's. I didn't have any alterations on Alpha.
Has anyone survived a charge yet from
It might have
Izaro?
been shock, maybe.
Has anyone taken a charge and survived it?
I've
from Izaro?
survived charges, yeah.
Okay, 'cause I thought
Definitely
it
not
was
with frenzy
like-
charges up though.
Deals 70% of your life plus 30%. Like,
Anyway, so let's go into the Q&A. I think we talked about everything.
Yeah. If you guys would post Q&A in chat at ZiggyD Live.
While we're waiting for Q&A, I will say totems are generally speaking the most boring thing in Path of Exile, but Nugi and I did a good job at hyping that shit up. I will say that, right, Nugi?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Turn that into fireworks, man.
Oh, I might have got crit. I think I had a crit Dark Shrine. A good point, I might have got crit by the boss, so maybe that was what was going on. So there you go, you can crit for over 7.5k HP then, just for the record. 68, imagine if there's a 75 one then. That should be interesting.
It's one of those.
freaking high.
It's one of those good all the stars align moments, right?
Perfect
Where normally it
storm.
won't happen, and it's just like, okay, here we go, the perfect storm, and you die.
someone brought this up, and I thought I should bring it up to you guys. They said, doesn't Stone Golem technically buff Zealot's Oath, Mind Over Matter, Eldritch Battery?
It does. It's going to be nice for any Zealot's Oath build, I think, yeah. I do think
That's
so.
kind of cool. I think that's actually
Yeah.
pretty cool because most regen you get is percentage based. This is actually giving you flat. This will actually allow you to transition really early on. Like 50 regen per second, that's enough to sustain. Like, if I had 50 mana regen per second at level like 40, that's pretty good.
Yeah, when you first get it, it's really good. It's a really good amount of regen for some builds. But yeah, it doesn't seem to scale up that much, so...
I honestly think...
Yeah.
Oh no, go on.
Yeah, you go ahead. That was the end.
Oh, I like, just thinking about that, it also enables you to run, let's say you go minor matter, or not minor matter, you go EB, but you only go EB with like 300, and you reserve your entire life or your entire mana pool, right?
You sustain off like 70.
And you just sustain off the regen. Because like now you don't have to like make all those conversions, but you get like it might give you like another aura just from having the golem.
This is very true. You basically trade off an aura for a golem. And
Yeah,
can
because you don't need the regen and the high pool to make it work.
Right, because normally you'd scale percent off percent. You get a high ES pool, scale off that, but this is just pure flat. You hear this, guys? That means you're gonna start looking for all those life regen prefixes. Is it prefix
It
for
means
life
you'll
regen?
have to actually properly support a golem, though, with, like, minionelli resist and stuff like that.
No, really, just
Keep him
cast an
alive.
damage taken, summon golem, have a level 21 if he
Yeah,
dies.
but then if he's not up, he can't cast his spells.
I mean, it should be up. Like, it should be up.
You know what's pretty
I guess-
crazy? The freaking life regen, the life recovery, ES recovery, mana recovery node in Trickster, that 1.6 times multiplier to all life regen thing is
I like
dumb.
Trickster.
Thing is so good. You can go RF so early with that thing.
I love those hybrid classes, like the utility ones that work for everything. I think
Yes.
they're such a beautiful benefit.
Trickster, Cultist.
Because they can be incorporated to like any build, like literally like anything you want almost. You can just be like, well, I could start from here and go like and get all this, or I could do this, or I could choose to go Scion, or I could have Fortify permanently. So it's cool, man.
So what do we got for questions, Ziggy?
Okay, let me pull some out here. Oh, where was it? I missed the person who it was. I must not have copy-pasted it properly. But someone asked... Oh, no, here it is. Roadrunner KZSK asks, Dark Shrines, what effect have you encountered so far? I saw Nugi get 100% increased experience, Craigasm. Nugi, 100% increased experience, bro? You got a
Yeah,
Dark
yeah.
Shrine that gave that?
Yeah,
Damn.
it was.
That's pretty insane. Like, maybe not at 68 when you're rocking a high-level character, but... For leveling, that would be pretty nice, and like there's pretty good
for
density
sure.
in there, isn't there? So,
Yeah, there is just a lot of monsters. It was really nice.
it's like
Yeah,
such a big
died.
zone. That's like it's a massive amount of increased XP to the entire massive zone that it is. Like a
Do
half
you
hour
guys
run.
know if they still kept some of the mods from Dark Shrine, like the 20% quality gems and things like that?
I can tell you the 3 that I've got, and you can tell me if they applied, like if they were in Dark Shrines.
Yeah, go for it.
I've had you permanently have vulnerability.
Yep.
Until you go to
that one's from
standard
Dark
league.
Shrines.
80% fire resist to everything in the map.
Yep.
And I had one that was really troll. I don't know if you guys have gotten this.
No, the
It
wisdom scraps.
spawned. No, it spawned 60 items, like 50 to 60. Well, it spawned them one by one, so it kept dropping them, and it kept dropping armor
That's
scraps.
the new drop changes, by the way. They've
Oh, yeah,
put
one
an
at a time.
anti-lag mechanic in.
The anti-lag. It went for like 2 minutes. I have to highlight it. It kept dropping. It dropped armor scraps one at a time. It was like pew, armor scraps, blacksmith whetstones. I got a chisel, and the last one was a GCP. And it literally, we were just looking for 2 minutes. It was just pew, pew, pew. It just kept dropping. I was like, what is this? Is it a bug?
There were dark shrines that, like, anything in your inventory, it dequality'd, or like, if they were all rare, it would give you all alch orbs and make them all white. That was like one of the dark shrine mods, so I'm not sure if that still exists.
Oh.
Maybe they changed it up. Who knows?
For people who don't know, who haven't been playing in the alpha, they kind of introduced a new way that monsters spawn and items not monsters, but items pop out to reduce a lot of the burst lag, like from strong boxes and stuff. Items now come out like one at a time. Like it's very
like
quickly.
a cascading effect.
Right. Instead of like just everything popping at the same time and lagging, items drop in like a quick succession really fast. So you see like, it's cool.
So this means that the people who were thinking about looting before for clear speed, now you're definitely not going to loot? That's good to know.
I mean, it only really happens for like lockboxes and stuff. I guess like maybe some bosses and stuff will, but it's not. I don't know. I don't really think it's been too much of a problem. Seems like a good thing to me.
It's just fun. It's just cool seeing them.
It's probably going to prevent lag.
It's kind of satisfying. It reminds me of Grim Dawn when you pop the things and the loots will go brrrr, like a little fountain of loot. It's kind of what it looks like.
So what do you got for the next question?
Asus asks, what do you think about the Helm enchantment grind? Isn't it too random? So there's 300 different helmet enchantments currently, multiple for each skill is what ZiggyD said. So I did a few in Merciless, and I think it's not going to be too hard to get one that works for you, but it might not be a very good one. Like I got 25% leap slam damage, right? I was using leap slam. Okay, but I guess that helps a little, kind of. But to get like the really good one, yeah, I think you're gonna need to be trading gear around. That's what I think. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier of like getting good bases and just throwing enchants on and finding something for someone, and they'll just buy it off you and enchant. I think it's a beautiful system. It adds another grinding thing that you don't have to do. Like you can play around and just buy it, or you could be the guy that runs the labyrinth and sells off the gear.
I mean, you could just keep re-enchanting your helmet many times, and let's say there's like 3 out of the 300 that are good for your build. Then you have a 1 in 100 chance of getting something decent for your build.
But think about what
eventually you might get something.
Like you're competing against the people who because labyrinths they're different every day, but it's still a layout that you can memorize. So there's gonna be people just speed running labyrinths, just making bank off it, and you're competing against those guys. So is it worth you to keep running the labyrinth or just find something and buy it? That's why I think
I'm talking about
very
people
true.
that are gonna be like, God, I don't want to be forced to trade for enchantments, which I know people are gonna be
It's
like.
more min-max for. Can you even enchant something that's corrupted or mirrored?
You can't, no.
Okay, so
Not corrupted. I don't know about
first you have to
mirror
get the good enchant, then you have to corrupt it. I mean, like it's just more of the perfect.
I don't actually know if corruption
Or does
overrides
corruption
it.
will make a new
Overrides.
implicit? Okay,
You
okay.
won't corrupt them.
So mirrored as well would suffer then.
But enchanting white bases, like was suggested, will definitely be a thing. I think, like high item level good white bases.
Are there enchants better than a lot of corruptions out there? Like some of those GG corruptions.
Yes.
Like +1 frenzy boots, things like that.
My boots right now to bring them back up again. If it's like I guess it's like a 4 or 5 second buff. If you kill a target, there's a small time frame where you have 40% chance to not get stunned. I think it's 40% chance to not get stunned. Which I mean that's a lot. That's when you're clearing maps and you're just constantly killing those Roas, 40% chance to not get stunned by them. That's pretty huge for just an implicit.
I think it depends on the slot you're trying to. I think the helmet slot is most of the time the best to enchant. Like that has like that you're pretty much guaranteed that that's going to be best in slot for every build on the helmet. I see very few builds that's not the case. For the boots, I think you're completely correct with the frenzy charge, and for gloves, for instance, you can get curse on hit, you can get +1 levels and stuff like that. That is potentially better than any of the enchants.
Yeah,
I
the
think
gloves are not going to make or break any builds, certainly.
Yeah,
They're
no.
nice, but
No.
The helmet one, isn't that the one where they're all for skills, and
Yeah,
the other
helmet's
ones are
all
like
skills.
for other things?
Oh, is that how it
Right.
works?
Boots are contextual, gloves are procs, and helmets are skills.
Okay. Yeah, so I think the big slot that are gonna be enchanted are gonna be the helms. Like that's gonna suit everyone's build, with the one enchant you want for the specific build.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can build around the on-hit effects as well, but
I think most skills, I'd estimate like 75% of skills from what I've seen so far. We haven't seen much so far, just for the record, but it seems like 75% of skills will have something on the helmet that is just GG, that they'll really want to get.
Yeah.
Like it'll be something like there is just damage ones, right, that are not going to be bad, but then they're not very exciting, but there's ones like the, reduced duration on Stormcall, for example.
I want to see if there's trap cooldown recovery on a helmet.
There's specific skills, so I guess it could be for like a lightning trap or something.
I mean, that's cool too. I'll take it.
I think there was one. I'm pretty sure there was one for fire trap.
That's amazing. Like, that's great. Anything incorporating trap cooldown recovery is nuts.
I mean, there's 300 of them, so we're gonna have to read some wiki stuff here.
Does that mean they're
I'm
multiple for
really
the same one?
Enchantments. What's that?
Does that mean
Very
they're
well.
multiple for the same one?
I mean, how many active support gems do we have? Like,
Yeah, exactly. They can't be
Yeah,
300.
they said there'd be multiple enchantments for each skill, so they've made at least 2 to 3
Ooh.
enchantments for each skill.
Okay.
yeah, the storm call
That's
one
kinda
I
cool,
saw
right? I
recently
like it.
was
Yeah, it's really nice.
the storm call one I saw was minus 30% reduced duration, reduced by 30%. It's pretty crazy for storm call, especially
good.
now that less
Yeah.
duration gives a multiplier. Now you can have some instant storm calls.
There was like Arctic Armor Reduced Reservation, the Burning Arrow one that I mentioned earlier, the Fist Damage is Fire. Some pretty
That
nice ones.
discharge
that
one
I've
they
seen so
showed 3
far.
months ago was pretty nuts. 20% chance to not consume charges on discharge. It's crazy for a Fakener build.
You could enchant, someone said Gold Room Fire Trap enchantment. You could enchant sick leveling items. That'd be pretty funny.
Can you enchant unique? Yeah, you could. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
That's
I
right,
enchanted
wow.
a Bringer of Rain. Pretty sweet. Dr. Sir Kyle asks, is the Saboteur class worth for crit trappers compared to the Assassin? So if you're playing a crit trapper instead, Pohx, I know you're playing non-crit, yeah, with Saboteur?
Right. I mean, you could potentially do whatever you want. The thing about it is if you're using cluster traps, say you have 6 traps out on the field, each trap should have a separate crit roll. So I think crit trappers right now are actually like in one of their best states that they can be in because of cluster trap, because you're throwing 4 ranged traps out at a set location. Each trap has their own crit roll. You're given a very good chance at crit, just in general. I don't know if it's better. There's so many options you could play. Like, you could go have Fortify on Duelist and play a Trapper if you wanted to, realistically. But I mean, I'm just saying, I think that just kind of, it's a different play style. If you want to get instant detonation, or not instant, but everything detonates at the same time, you go for that. If you just want raw, you want to throw 1 trap, you want your Ignite to like overkill, like, I don't even know, everyone, then go with Assassin. It's different. It's different play styles, really.
Yeah.
I think that we got time for
ahead.
one more, Ziggy. We got time for one more.
Yeah, alright, sure. Cameron Cop asks, will we see Orb of Storms used in attack builds? For example, Deadeye, Attacking Ranger, +1 Chain Ascendancy. Passive for Orb of Storms using Lightning Strike to proc Orb Chains. I'm talking about the damage of proccing Orb of Storm. I think that it's enough damage if you get about Quill Rain attack speed to compete with a main skill. But the thing about Orb of Storms is that it's main skill plus... It's not enough to compete with main skill plus another spell that you're using, just for the record and that sort of thing. I don't really see it being used much for damage on like attack-based builds because your scaling won't affect it. I don't think you'll get much damage. I see it mostly being used for utility. Seems like the utility strength of it is going to be the real key for non-spellcaster builds, non-lightning spellcasters basically. We'll all be using it for utility. You guys have any different thoughts or other thoughts?
It just makes me laugh. It's kind of like Herald of Thunder's introduction, where it was not used in lightning builds nearly as much as it was used for support. Before they changed Shock, it was your curse on hit, bitch. Now it's like Orb of Storms, your curse on hit, bitch. Same thing.
It's still fun.
different
It's
name.
new. Yeah.
All right, well, I want to thank Nugi and Pohx. Thank you again for coming in, guys. I appreciate it. Some good discussion. You know what? I don't mind being the bad guy because it brings on some good-ass debates. Would you
I don't
rather have a
think
Yes Man podcast?
I don't think you were the bad guy, Zeno. I really don't. It's good having discussions. Like it's important that we can disagree on things without being angry at each other. So.
Well, no, I mean, I do hate you, but still. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah.
Oh,
I think it was like you enlightened me as well in some instances. Like sometimes I am a little bit too lax with things, and I accept, like, I don't know, I'm not too perfectionist. I don't know. Maybe I am. But in the
thing
sense
I noticed
that
about Zeno is he gets hyped about different things to most people, which which often makes me notice different things as well.
By hype,
Like
you
in
mean
getting hyped
salty?
about like armor characters and stuff last patch.
I love armor, man. I love it.
But
Well-
sometimes things are shit, and they should be called out on it. And it's good. It's good saying like as you see it. I appreciate that.
Indeed. I want to ask you guys a final question, if possible. What is the one thing out of Ascendancy that you're most excited for? Then, yeah, what's the thing that really stands out for you guys?
I'll go last.
I can start first, then give you guys a second to think, since I thought of the question. That would be fair. I think it's the economic implications of enchanting. Like, I'm really excited for trading enchantments and running the Labyrinth and getting Helm and enchantments, especially now that Pohx talked about the fact that you can craft them after enchanting them. That's
one of
what I'm
my
most excited
favorites.
about. I'm really excited about that. So I think this is going to be a great league to trade in.
Pohx, that's what you're excited about too?
No, chain reaction is hands down my.
Hands down chain reaction. I mean, looking at your stream, I can't blame you, bro.
You can like.
It's insane.
Like if you want to make your skill look like visually pleasing, you can make it visually pleasing. What? Yeah. How about you, Nugi?
I'm on the enchants, but on a different from a different side. Like I'm more of the replayable content, right? Where you can like farm for enchants and min-maxing your character.
Yeah.
Having something worthwhile to do. That's something I really appreciate. So that I'm really hyped for that.
2 for enchants, not bad.
Something I'm actually hyped about. They're making. I just saw on Reddit. They made the Taste of Hate unique.
Pleasing.
No, dude, the Taste of Hate unique has gone down in rarity, and they've buffed it. Like here, let me just read this data to you. All right, so Taste of Hate. First off, it's gone down in rarity.
I think that was needed, really.
Yeah, it's like one of those things that's like super important and